All right. So, what would you say if you could, within a sentence or so, or within a small segment, what did yesterday mean to you? We were talking about doing things purposefully and with the understanding of the intent behind them. What was yesterday you wanted to seek? Or here, let me stop talking and let you answer the question.
No, I really appreciate we hanging out yesterday and today still because that's what you're talking about, right?
Well, no,
About
you were trying to
time
seek
and
actually while you were doing whatever,
oh, right,
and you
right,
said
right,
that
right,
you
right,
wanted
right,
to
right.
do something
What's
on an
the
exotic nature. And
right,
remember, we
right?
defined exotic and a couple times, but I just was asking you what did yesterday mean for you if you were going to sum it up. No rush to speak or anything. I guess if you watched it as a movie, what would be the moral scheme or what would be the sticking out thing to you that was highlighted or that you took from
Well,
it?
when I said that, I wasn't sure if I wanted, for example, smoke,
Yeah,
and then you asked me, well, ask yourself the purpose. What is the purpose? And I said, well, because I want to be exotic. I want to be
that's your sexual.
fun. I want to be sexual. I want to be free of, you know, dropping the guards.
I would almost
But
I
I
would
mean,
almost classify it like connotatively, like exotic to have a sexual connotation within my mind to like a high degree, or exotic is I know it can be anything, but
right.
see when I get high, I feel like there's when I say there's a fourth, there's like a cut from my fourth chakra. I mean that I sterilize my emotions for a great deal in order to gain, I guess,
Does it make you
mental
high?
proficiency and also what get me high? Well, how do you define highness? Or
Right.
is it a state of euphoria, or is it a feeling? Is it a state of production? What you
It's
get
a
out of
state
it?
of feeling.
Is it a state of unique expression into where you can
It's
create?
a state of unique feeling,
It's
expression.
subjective. Yeah. What did yesterday mean
Because
to you, or what did you get from it? What was expressed? Sometimes we express things unbeknownst
yesterday
to ourselves.
different. Yeah, I noticed that last time that we hang out, we had more fun than yesterday. Not that we didn't have fun,
Hmm.
but the
I
last
was a bit
time
sloppy natured last night. I apologize.
we 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 had more fun. Like we were dancing, and I was naturally like recording, no need to like, oh, can you record me or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
was just like natural, and I think that every experience is different. Every day is different. So, but overall, I think that that was an excellent experience because like we got to bond,
Absolutely. Hmm.
and in certain levels, we almost brought someone, it didn't work out, so whatever.
Is there anything that made you
Um,
uncomfortable, or is there anything that I
no,
could that was no? Okay, thank you, and definitely,
nothing made me
it's a
uncomfortable because
bridge. It's a bridge. You would express it.
if something makes me uncomfortable, I talk.
Okay, good. Yes,
Oh, my heart
I can
talks.
sometimes. That's something that you need.
I can't let
Yeah,
it
but if you
go.
sterilize your heart so that you can get a lot of clerical and data organized in a proficient manner, then you shouldn't have like your hand signing wagers because that your heart that's addressed to your heart.
Right.
So I do feel like I feel like sometimes there's things that have double entendres that are indirectly. I just want to say that perhaps that we have a dissection of what I wanted something exotic too, in the sense that it has a uniqueness to it that is out of the ordinary. But I think sometimes I go into doing stimulants in order to. I like to have fun and I like to dance and do, but my sex I definitely don't. I have I guess a sexual acuity for them, and I feel like maybe when I was dancing, especially in the promiscuous manner that I was, that sometimes it could be taken. I need to be careful not to. I could be blue balling people, or I just don't get horny on stuff for the most part. No, the whole thing is about bringing it back to the first couple times that we hung out, specifically the first. It was a funner atmosphere. Um, I feel like I'm a diamond in a sense, or we're all like gemstones. I feel like last night and this week in general, I've been stuck in almost a scientist, maybe archetype or persona. Like I'm very motivated towards trying to,
Methodical.
yeah. Uh, and it's good, but it's
It
also
is good.
sometimes. But then I feel like sometimes people knock on my door and want an opinion on something I feel, and it's like, no, I'm partitioning that part of my brain right now towards classical reasoning. And sometimes
I'm
it hurts.
sorry, I
It
don't
hurts
have
people's
time for
feelings.
this. I'm a
It hurts
star.
people's feelings sometimes. But no, thank you for just always
No,
let me
I
know if
mean
there's something
like,
that if
I
I
mean
step on a
like,
toe or cross a boundary, just let me know so I
oh,
understand.
oh yeah, I do.
You do, yeah.
Oh yeah,
I need
definitely I
to.
do. Definitely
The
I
slides.
do.
Do you want me to answer the same question about what yesterday meant for me? I don't
Yes,
know
what,
until I
yes,
express it more.
what yesterday meant to you
Yesterday meant for me,
today, but you and I, like,
well, I'd gotten sleep the night before, but I had been a little bit out of sorts all week. Yesterday, I think, I'm thinking of every situation. Ooh, the high point of emotions for me was the interstate situation. I think that laid the foundation for the rest of the night. Not that it had to, but there was a lot to be taken from that situation. Uh, I need to
what?
ask myself why. Why did I get that upset? That was the place where I had the highest peak of emotions. And later on, it led to a creative kind of at least attempt. I need to go back and unsegue that video. Or
Oh, I didn't know you got upset.
remember, no, on the highway, on the way when we was back and forth and back and forth.
Oh, right, right, right,
I
right.
had
That was a
there was a
little.
frenzy.
That was a
Why do
little
you
bit.
think that affected me to such an extent? That was probably the highest.
No,
Is it because
because
I have a control issue,
because the
or
no
was it
no
because even if people are
because
doing things incorrectly, why am I that emotionally involved with it?
the guy wasn't being responsible. He was not giving us in a specific address. He was saying, "I am in
He
a
was being highly indirect,
two exits down
highly indirect and inaccurate.
Port Republican Road." I was like, okay, this is.
But okay, I do think that that's no.
But that was totally on him. That was totally on him.
I don't think
Because if he had given us like a physical address, that was not a problem because we had phone with GPS. We had
oh,
the
there was the
map
electronics
with
breaking down.
GPS. So
Kind of like the dogs barking 30 minutes before you got to my house.
the way you took
Sometimes
it,
I feel like the
though.
environment raises hell.
I appreciate the way you took it.
I
though.
really appreciate you. No, see, the whole point of
Because
this
you know what?
situation
Let
is
me tell you
that's when
this.
I was having the highest point of emotion, and you were very patient with me. You bought me a coffee drink, and thank you for not when I had that kind of anxiety going on for not
Yeah,
being
but
short or being patient.
no, but you didn't, you know, like lose it with the guy. You were very cool, and then saying that, you know, trying to um, amend the situation by saying, you know, the GPS is fucking up, you know, and we are not getting it.
Now,
So
also, there's the car anxiety is essential. I have a car anxiety. It seems like it's a lot of it's just a lot going on, and with me sitting in the passenger seat and having wrecked a bunch, it's almost like
no, but
that's definitely a compound.
no,
I want to understand my feelings better.
but I agree with you though because once you were driving, you're not supposed to be on the phone.
Well, even if that was what was
That's
worrying
bad
me.
of me.
Wow, wait a second.
I
So
apologize for that.
there was the
I apologize for that because I am the one who usually says no phone in the car unless I don't touch it.
we did a very large line before we left, and I feel like after that I was seeing you almost in a stupefied manner. You weren't. You were driving completely accurate, but then when you would go to use your phone, I wasn't seeing much forward progress within the phone dimension, and I was seeing less on the road, and it was.
Right, because I was more focused on the phone. Yeah.
What do you think? Wait a second. Ooh, okay, more focus on the phone. But that's okay, because I wanted to go in there and help. And then eventually I did. But the phones were just look. We have the electronics being disablement, and the flasher was coming on. Things were not working. Car anxiety, driving level.
We didn't have an address to go to.
That goes with the all the GPS. Thank you, and that goes with the electronics. Yeah, GPS was messing up. But even okay, so the frustrations in life. Do you think that's why? I mean, you shouldn't get upset when
Wait,
when people are wrong or when people are inaccurate, and you shouldn't really get upset if you're driving down the road. So why did I throw a temper tantrum, and why did it
could
affect
you
me?
give me a second?
Yeah, it's because
Just
these things, I guess, are fearful.
hello? From where? Oh, okay. Where? Where is it? Cambridge, Massachusetts. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, it's an undesirable area for me. Unfortunately, yes, yes. I am looking in the North Shore, outside of Boston, in general.
Boston.
Yes.
What's up? This is Tyler, and I'm just chilling here.
I am Dan, and I am just chilling here with Tyler. We are lying down here in bed, and Tyler is under the covers because he's a little cold,
Mm-hmm.
and I am just lying down here, chilling and enjoying myself.
It's a good analysis of the physical properties that are residing within the domain that we're inhabiting right now. Far too often, it seems that I've completely sterilized myself from being aware and mindful of my environment. But in order to have the power of now, like you were talking about earlier, you almost have to pinch yourself and put yourself back into wherever it is that you find yourself occupying.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
I'm always
agree.
talking about ideas and stuff, but do you think that there is something to be gained from uh, the hyper focus of one's environment, or
Uh, no, I believe it comes from within. You have to come up with it and explore it,
what is
and
it?
the things that you want, everything you have it. It's
Hmm.
just a matter of you looking for it, but it's all available to you.
Sometimes I feel that I have trouble connecting to my. It'll be like when I'm in my head, like when I was supposed to be hitting up boys on Grinder earlier, and we were talking, but it was like I kept having to be almost reminded to that I'm inhabiting this body, or that I need to go back to the point where I was sitting on my foot where I got numb. Remember?
Hmm.
Um, it's almost as if there's a detachment from me and my thoughts and my physical environment sometimes, where I almost like astral project out of it. It almost feels like
Yeah, because you're not
so
grounded.
I'm not grounded
You're
properly.
not focused. So you wanna
What grounds you?
again grounds me,
Hmm.
reminding me of being in the moment. That's what
There's power. There's
that's what
power within
grounds
being, I
me.
guess, present in the moment.
Yes, that is a lot.
Hmm. Well, you had me at power. No, I'm just kidding. It's, I guess a person with a me in a lesser state has said before that if you show me a reason to be plugged into my environment, then I might show you a form of myself that is more environmentally aware. But that's a person that makes excuses, I would say. Um, mm, it's also rationalization to stay in my head. They say that your thoughts, your microcosm, which is inside your brain, and then your macrocosm, which is outside of your body, it's all the same thing, anyways, or something. And they say that it's just your environment is a direct expression of your mind. Or so, really, when you sit back and want to say, when I sit back on my high horse and say I don't want to zone into my environment because thoughts are just so much, and there's no need to. The environment is meaningless. Then I need to realize that the environment is a direct reflection of my thoughts and that there's no difference. So to be toned and zoned out of one is almost to be Not alive at all, I guess. But where am I? What is this stuff around me? This is funny. In a kind of sad way.
Mm. Yeah, the essence of life is coming from inside of yourself that connects you to the universe. So you need to let that force, that energy
Mm-hmm.
flow through you and goes to the universe and connects to the universe. So your universe will give you back the same thing that you are projecting to the universe. The energy, if it is a positive energy, if a good energy, if it is a productive energy, if it is a kind, if it's a good, if it's a loyal energy, you will get all that back from the universe. However, if you are bitter and
Bitter.
you bitter,
Oh, bitter.
yeah,
Okay.
and don't look into change, you stuck and you are creating a prison
Mm-hmm.
for yourself, an emotional prison for yourself, and that's not nothing more worse than being a emotional prison.
That's true. What are some bitterness qualities, or what are some things that you find yourself needing to maybe spend a little bit more time? Like, I feel like it's almost such a broad thing. I feel like for myself, I've gotten over a lot of, I've taken my power back about how people feel about me or about overstressing about, I guess, the opinions of others. But I feel like the major thing that I find that I'm stinking thinking on is that I always feel that I can be doing more than I am. And so there's a perpetual guilt. But simultaneous to that, it doesn't seem that I'm moving forward because there's no fire underneath of me, or there's no, um, I'm not drawing from anything. It's almost like I need a spark for a reaction, but I'm waiting for something to move me before I move. And then I'm feeling perpetually guilty when I don't move because it's just a weird kind of a paradox that I'm getting through. But yeah. And then I think I feel bitter for time wasted. Bitterness is definitely a void that you don't want to get sucked into. It's a prison that you don't really get good time on. Uh, Thank you for bringing attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to be caught up in a bitter. I definitely think that I'm a little bit. I've been very passive and very well, and then at times I haven't. I guess we all have multiple colors, but I feel like I've been very nice. And lately, there's been a part of me that's almost a little bit trying to bring into balance a part of myself that is more assertive, more assertive, and maybe a bit more someone who I guess is more defined with what they believe and speaks himself forward. But it's not a very natural like characteristic that I have. So I almost have to like push myself. I almost inflate it. It always comes across as cocky and arrogant sometimes. Excuse me. Uh, and then I got these fucked up, what do you call them, defense mechanisms, right? It's just got a lot of goofy stuff going on. But I'm excited to be evolving. I'm excited to be growing into something that is a higher form of myself. Mm.
Yeah, higher form of yourself. That's beautiful because that's what builds your soul. That's what feeds your soul,
Growth.
your growth, and who you become after the job that you have to do to keep reminding you of of being in a present, because being a present means being grounded, being connected with yourself and with the universe.
Mm. I would like to do that,
So
but words are
it
wind.
is easy to do it. No, it's not easy to do it actually, but it's simple to do it when you learn the techniques.
I find myself not grounded because I feel that I run away from my present a lot. Like I was explaining to you in the car, that since I had car anxiety, I started zoning out in the passenger seat. And as a correlation to that, I don't know directions very well. It's almost as if that it's been my go-to in life, that I find myself in harsh or painful times, and so I've zoned out, or I've been an only child. You asked me about if I had any siblings. A lot of time alone, a lot of time in one's head. It definitely seems that I'm having to condition myself later in life about grounding and anchoring and being present. And yeah, I'm going to continue to do that. Thank you for helping me develop like a mantra.
Yeah, absolutely. I am very grateful for what I have learned from life and from myself, learning myself, and exploring and not being afraid.
Mm-hmm.
As there are times where like you want to give up because it's exhausting, mentally exhausting, and all you want to do is to just sleep, but you can't let go, because that's the part where your brain is going to be um, it's going to produce different hormones in your brain, or quantity of hormones increase, the production of hormone increase in your brain. Certain hormones in your life will transform completely.
So that's what I tell myself when I start feeling very depressed or very low. It's like just because I've been addicted for so long, I'm familiar to passing bouts of mania or passing depressive bouts. Or it's like when you find yourself in a state of despair, I try to tell myself that there will be more dopamine and serotonin and norepinephrine or whatever produced at a later time. And if you can just ride the storm, then eventually you get to a place where you feel better. And it's helped me not take myself so seriously in a way. But that's what you're saying, right?
Yes,
Hmm.
totally.
If I've been abusing drugs pretty consistently since I was 12 years old, uh, specifically the last couple of years. How long do you think, as a molecular biologist, how long do you think it would take for my brain chemistry to return to a place that would be considered stable? Or
Um, Approximately, I believe, depend of how hard you work. So if you work out, if you sweat a lot, you drink a lot of water, you eat healthy, and don't do any drugs for a month
mm-hmm.
or 2 months, and you're gonna feel different, and then you're gonna make a judgment: should I go back there or stay the way I am? Should I do it again, or should I just continue my decision of not do it just for doing it, but to have a purpose? If that is a purpose, you do it. But if that is not a purpose, what is the point of doing it? So you want to question yourself on that way.
What is your
You want
purpose?
to.
That's a really good way or thing to bring attention to.
What is the purpose? Everything gotta be a purpose. Everything in life has a purpose. What is the purpose
What do you get out of?
of working? The purpose of working is to get a better life, better education, better house, better car, travel. That's the purpose of work. Pay responsibilities, take care of responsibilities,
Hmm.
right? Same way is our life. What is the purpose of our life? What is the purpose of me uh, using I don't know,
Stimulants.
stimulants, whatever? So you have to have a purpose
What is
for
your purpose
everything.
within stimulant use? You haven't done it, but a few times you said.
I only done few times, but the purpose was to have sex.
See, that's what people use it as a sex drug often. I've never really used it. I mean, I've done it on, but it's never been specifically for like a sexual domain for me. Um, but it definitely has changed from what it used to be. Um, to the point where sometimes I don't even know why. I'm doing it to feel a certain feeling, and I'm also doing it as a social commonality in order to network and be able to go and meet new people. Or also, it helps me not to feel, I guess, negative emotional inputs that I got. So it's also kind of a coping mechanism that's in there as well.
Hmm.
Uh, but outwardly, I used to be much more productive on it. Like he was saying with his cleaning bouts or with his organization. Lately, I find that I'm not able to channel it into the same as before. It definitely seems that I need to reevaluate what it is that I'm super addicted towards about the whole stimulant situation. Because there's definitely things that I'm sacrificing in order to maintain it and uphold it. Uh, and I guess I'm gaining pleasure. I'm avoiding certain pain for a limited time and social. Hmm.
That's very important. That's very valid,
It's interesting.
extremely valid.
What do you do if, so then I stop using it, for instance, okay? Then suddenly I am face smacked with all this responsibility, all of these negative emotions, and apathy in terms of things that I once found enjoyable because of my brain chemistry. It's like they suddenly, it's almost like to be bombarded with gray while feeling pain, having this mountain of responsibility to accomplish, and just having nothing but the promise of tomorrow to drive you forward. And I guess that weakness has kept me in a comfortable bubble of self delusion and addiction. Uh,
Yeah. Um, well, you're bringing a very important point because talking about addiction,
mm-hmm.
you know, when you recognize that you are addicted to something, that's the first step to recovery. So if you are addicted to, let's say, dinner, and if you feel like you are addicted to it, and then you recognize and you say it, so you are ready to do something about it.
Well, I've known I've been addicted for many years.
Yeah, I know, I understand, but
Mm-hmm.
it's that is a turnaround because what happens now, your brain stop producing certain neurotransmitters. Well, it didn't stop, but decrease the amount because the drug is giving you the neurotransmitters
Mm-hmm.
that that you that you
Covet,
that you need,
then I
that
need.
your brain produce. Actually, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. The drug doesn't give you that. The drug stimulates. Uh, what happens is like two two neurotransmitters supposed to match, and then the drug comes and kick this one out and match with one, and then cover the the entrance of the neurotransmitter, and then your brain won't produce, so you have to keep putting the drug in. So, but when you stop that, your brain start recognizing that, wait a minute, something's missing here, which is the neurotransmitters that you are supposed to have to have a healthy life.
Mm-hmm.
So then the brain it's time to produce more. The body needs more, and then the brain start producing more and more and more, and then you don't need any more. The addiction is decrease, but you are always aware that you have a addicting personality.
Absolutely, always have.
If you have an addicting personality, you have to be watching over you all the time, over your behavior all the time,
Why?
because you can become addicted to anything.
People,
You can
alcohol,
you become
drugs,
addicted to drugs, to alcohol. You can
sex,
become
role playing,
addicted to sex. You can become
escapism,
Yeah, exactly.
writing.
Using escape. You can become addicted to so many things.
Addiction is like obsession with a dependence, like
Yeah,
almost like
it's impulsive. It's impulsive behavior.
there's costs and there's rewards to all things, they say. I definitely have gotten to the point where I've stopped doing meth for a week's time or so, but it's like I even get to a sense of where I feel that I'm happy, or that I feel like I'm stable enough within my transmitters and whatnot. Um, but then it's like I think that it's really the social thing that always brings me back, or it's the for whatever reason I definitely haven't determined, even though I would say that not unmanageable, but yeah, it's definitely the split self. Even as I'm going to describe it, it's like I would like to stop. I would like to be healthy and to have continuity, and I
Yeah,
would like to be able to be
you can do
someone.
socially. You don't have to do like for no reason. Like I said, with purpose, not social, but like
But with purpose.
yeah, like okay. So what is the purpose? You ask yourself, okay, I'm gonna go smoke right now, and then you ask yourself, okay, wait a minute, why am I going to smoke? What's the point? What's the purpose?
But
So if you're going to hook up with someone and you think you need that, that's a purpose.
it makes me feel better than I would feel without it,
But it is
and it usually makes me more active. It usually makes me. It makes it so that I don't need to sleep, so I get more of a production value within.
but the best sex ever, honestly,
Hmm.
is without drugs.
See, it doesn't
It's the
even come
best
into sorts with sex for me.
when you hug a person, when you kiss, when you touch the body, you appreciate the entire body of a person. The pleasure is from another world, I would say. The pleasure is incredible. And with drug, like that day, the guy here, remember?
Hmm.
He was just banging me.
Hmm.
Banging, 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 banging. He would never come. I was like, what is the point? If he wasn't on the drugs, I'm sure he had come to orgasm. But he didn't.
Hmm.
So, you know,
It
so
definitely,
that's the
it's
best.
different. It definitely compounds into something within sexual dynamics. You almost have to have a connection and love somebody in order to have really to make love to them. They say. I feel like without drugs, I don't know how to relate and eventually go. I don't know what to do with people in order to get through the tasks of what you're doing in order to know them. It's like when you meet someone, you guys are usually doing something. You have a medium of engagement, and throughout y'all's medium of engagement, you eventually take little pieces of the person. You know how they define themselves, their story, what it is, and without that's intense.
Just sent me.
Without drugs as a commonality, or without I guess hedonism in one form or another, I find that I don't meet people, or I don't. It's almost like it shuts the whole lane down. And I know I just need to refine. I need to figure out like how to reprocess that, but it's a psychological block that keeps me in, I guess, addiction. Because even when I start to feel better biologically and I have a slight period of clean time, I continue to find myself going back towards meth abuse on a daily basis because there's something I'm fundamentally missing, I believe. And it's, I guess it's social engagement, and it's a feeling of, I would rather live, I guess, numb in pleasure than alone in pain.
Hmm.
Maybe that's a lie I tell myself.
Right. So the goal is to
To fix that.
remind yourself to be in the present, grounded. I'm gonna see you again.
Okay. No, you're fine. I came to jail in late December of 2017 in one of the most broken states I have ever been. Physically, I was drug addicted in withdrawal at a weight of 121 pounds and a height of 6'2". Bones protruded out of me like an exoskeletal reminder of the sins of the past. After having reached what was either a mental psychotic breakdown or spiritual epiphany, the very fabric of space and time had ripped open the week prior, whether because of poor health, extended use of LSD over months, or stress, who's to say. I was still a little bit shaky on what was real and what wasn't. The one thing I had going for me was my faith was at an all-time high, even if my terms were a little bit shaky on what I was faithful towards. I knew God had my back and everything was going to be okay. My cellmate ended up being a guy named Timothy Leon Jenkins. Tim looked like a skinhead, except he was gangster and not racist. He had tattoos all over his body with white trash tattooed on his neck and a small cross on his face under his eye. At first, we took to liking each other. All the outward Christianity symbols on his body in the form of tattoos told me he must be a good person. As it turned out, Tim, like everyone, I suppose, had a lot of demons in his closet that would eventually make us antagonistic to one another. His hard life had made him angry, a thief, jealous, victimizing, and violent. He certainly didn't turn the other cheek in the face of conflict. Regardless, I let him put money on my account for a while, which got us off on the right foot. It's strange how friendships develop, especially in jail. I watch a lot of Survivor and treat jail a lot like the show. I found myself in a group of 4 people. Myself, Tim, a guy named Roger, and John Ross. Roger was a rich kid who thought he was a hard drug dealer. He glorified his lifestyle and, in my opinion, embellished a lot of his experiences. He would stutter. He stuttered a lot. And John Ross became my world for the next several months. Like all alliances, I decided that we needed a solid name for our group. Somehow we became the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, or just the Horsemen for short. My first real conversation with John Ross was a simple one, where we found commonality. We both enjoyed Game of Thrones. It's funny how little things like that can influence a first impression, but they do. Months later, Ross told me that if it wasn't for that one Game of Thrones conversation, he probably wouldn't have befriended me the way he did. It turns out that Ross had pulled a 1.5-year jail sentence in a recent past that he quotes as being the worst period of his life. The only thing that gave him solace and joy during this time was the Game of Thrones books. He was out for 81 days before reviolating and eventually met me. During that 81 days, he had watched the HBO series, so Game of Thrones had a special representation for Ross. It was one of the few hobbies he had been able to pursue, and it had gotten him through a rough time in life. Without knowing so, I essentially lucked out because I'm a total Game of Thrones nerd. So we had for a long while, and became fast friends. So we talked for a long while and became fast friends. Before I knew it, I was in love. It's a little embarrassing how fast and hard it hit me, but it was undeniable. I fell in love with John Ross. He was the same age as me, 27, and the same height, 6'2". But he was totally opposite of my personality type at that time. Let's see. Ross was confident in a social butterfly. He wore glasses and spoke with a slight country twang. He was perceptive and hilarious, able to control the energy in the room. And he was athletically toned with lean muscle, a strong upper body, and arms with a lean waist. There's immeasurable theories on why I fell in love with Ross. I was in a broken place in life and needed a strong figure to guide me. I was in the thralls of lust. He was everything I wanted to be: masculine, confident, athletic, charming. He reflected my relationship with TJ that I had in jail. He had no family support. We started a student-teacher dynamic. I looked up to him. There's even a weird one. I wrote down T-Bone on something joking one day, and for months I became T-Bone. T-Bone is the name my dad used to call me growing up, and when Ross said it with his country accent, there was a subconscious connect and feeling of acceptance I'd never known from my father I was suddenly getting from Ross. Regardless of rhyme or reason, I fell in love and I fell hard. I needed a way to connect with Ross, something to make us bond. One day, I asked him if he would start training me on how to work out. From that point on, Ross made it a mission to help me get stronger. This was a big thing for me because I was so weak. I needed help doing most of the exercises. I couldn't do a single push-up on my own. We started with 4 of us in our group, and eventually it was just Ross and I. I never gave up, and I would go until I would almost pass out every time. Ross commented the first few weeks that I had more heart than everyone combined. As I started showing more results, I could feel how proud Ross was of me and how he really was putting effort into my transformation. It started off as me seeking the approval of this boy, and through the experience, I ended up gaining approval of myself. I am confident now that I will be in moderate to above average physique for the rest of my life. That was a gift that John Ross gave me. Within the first few weeks, my cellie Tim asked me straight out, "Are you gay?" I said that I was, being honest. He said he knew by the way I acted every time Ross came in the room. Anytime anything true but embarrassing was said to me at that time, I would turn bright red. It was like at that time I was incapable of secrecy. Either way, Tim asked why I wasn't just myself, and if I wanted him to come out to the pod for me. I reluctantly agreed, and before I knew it, I was out of the closet in jail. A somber-looking Ross and then the page is wrinkled. Looking at Ross, who was who was smiling. He said, "Man, it's 2018. It's no big deal." And just like that, I was accepted for who I was. Things got bold after that. Guys in jail are like gossips, and Tim was no different. At some point, Tim told Ross that he thought, that's not funny, but all right. Guys in jail. Okay. Tim was no different. At some point, Tim told Ross that he thought I was in love with him. Then Tim came to me saying that based on the way Ross responded to this and by his mannerisms, and the way he kept bringing it up, that Ross was by and into me. It seemed too good to be true, and my confidence was down. Tim told me to start writing notes to Ross that he would deliver and scope Ross out for context clues on his behavior. It became this huge telephone game where I wrote down on paper what Tim was supposed to say to Ross, but really I knew he was showing it to Ross, and then Ross would verbalize his response. This went on for a while and got nowhere, and it became awkward having Tim as the in-between man. What did transpire out of all of the madness was that Tim was positive that Ross was bi, even though Ross had never directly said anything, and that I needed to trust him. Tim said that I had all the power and I wasn't using it correctly. He said if it went on this way, I would never get what I wanted in life. He said Ross had everything to gain in our friendship. I was feeding him, giving him attention, boosting his ego. He said if I wanted things to go my way, I had to threaten to take that all away, to give Ross a choice. The thought terrified me as a result, the thought terrified me, but he was right. I had never really taken charge in important relationships, and as a result, they had never gone the way I wanted. Scared out of my mind, I wrote a letter to Ross and hand-delivered it. The letter was bold and pushy, in retrospect, with quotes like, "I'm hungry too, it's either my way or the electric gets cut off. It's a blowjob, it'll feel good, and I'll go down the chain." Oh, that's horrible shit. Anyways. What's next? And a lot of... Oh, wait a second. That was always felt like they were... Before starting getting... Yeah, okay. Damn it. These wrinkles in them. A lot of time together alone. The other horsemen started commenting that they always felt like they were interrupting our conversations when they came in, and they kind of were. Before we started getting physical, I was nervous around Ross, and our conversations were broad, mostly group dynamic level that had little depth, tiny, humorous slices of life. But once we started spending more time together and I got more comfortable as an interviewer, the person in front of me came to life. Layer by layer. We talked about our dreams, our past, our mistakes, our families. Had he ever been in love? Where was he going after he got out of jail? What was his childhood like? I wanted to know this boy's life story, and piece by piece I got it, and it touched my heart. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but Ross had an abusive upbringing, had been abandoned by his family, and put all his eggs in one basket because he was in love, only to be abandoned again. I came home one day and she said, "I don't love you," I don't think I love you anymore, he told me. Instability from a home front and drug abuse as a coping mechanism did the rest. And John Ross had spent most of the last half-decade alone in jail. He barely got mail, had no financial support, which meant he was hungry constantly, and he had to struggle for basic hygiene. The longer this went on, the less hope Ross had. I saw him for who he was, his potential, a strong, intelligent, charming, amazing human being who, through poor luck and poor choices, had ended up in front of me then. I felt that this was his last chance. If he got out and screwed up again, he would be in jail for the next 5 to 10 years, and his life would be different because of it. here I was, someone who had all this info and loved the boy. I felt compelled to make a difference, and to be honest, I wanted Ross in my life. I brought up the conversation of us moving in together after jail, and after a few weeks, damn it, keeps doing that. Okay, we go. Okay. After a few weeks, we were both on board with it fully. And what makes it all worth it, Ross began to show signs of hope, optimism, and genuine happiness. This thing is like from the devil. It keeps flipping it like this. All right. Our relationship was tested in a big way because of my gossiping. Everyone already were talking about Ross and I because we spent so much time together, and I was openly gay. When my friend, I don't know what that says, Stahl, kept seeing Ross and I disappear during med rounds, he confronted me whether we were sleeping together or not. I turned blood red, and feeling that my skin tone had spoken for me, confided in him that we had, but it was a secret. On a separate note, I had told Tim that I had fucked Stahl on meth outside of jail, and once word got back to Stahl that I had said this, he blabbed to the whole pod about Ross and I. I found out before Ross did and was so nervous to tell Ross. Soon after, Ross came to me and said, I feel like everyone knows. And so I told him. It was a turbulent day or so, but ultimately Ross forgave me. After some time, he even became pretty open about it. It is what it is, he liked to say, and once when talking about how well endowed he was, he said, just ask T-Bone. What had once been such a dangerous topic seemed to lose steam a little after that. A lot of... That's 4, okay. This damn interface. Boom. I have never been in an actual relationship. So this period with John Ross was the closest I'd ever come to having that. I went from 121 pounds to 165 pounds in muscle. I threw him a birthday party. We got tattoos and spent all day, every day together. We were in a fully functional jail marriage together, so much that we were saying I love you to each other every night. Oh, God. After oral sex, I started having him hold me in his arms until the doors came unlocked again. He treated me like gold. I treated him like my hero. Of course, I played my hand a little harder as time went on. Ross's sexuality started coming up in dialogues a lot. By me, and it made him uncomfortable talking about it directly. I wanted us to truly date, but Ross wanted to stay the way it was. Date a man? It was as if he'd never thought about it before. He maintained that he lusted for women, but you're having a reaction to me, so you're bi, I said. He kinda nodded, but just let it hang there. Do you love me, I said. Yes, just not physically, and you're my best friend. Ross had idolized his father growing up. One day when they were hunting, he made the comment that he was so happy Ross hadn't turned out gay. I felt that this had caused a mental block in Ross fully accepting our relationship. However, where I took it to is both ridiculous and hilarious at the same time. As I gained weight, my ass started becoming something I took pride in. God. I kind of, right? I comment about... Ooh. How to break my physical barrier. I'm 165. Oh no, that's not it. Jam this thing. Okay. Alright, here we go. Loving me all but physically gave me a complex. I somehow came to the conclusion that if I could get Ross to fuck me in the ass, he would realize I'm just as beautiful from behind as any woman. And then we could be together. It's crazy, I know. So I ordered petroleum jelly and we sat down to talk. He was nervous, said he would think about it, but I persisted. Finally, it came down to me saying tonight is the night. I put a blanket over the door and we undressed. Ross was shaking. He was nervous. We would get caught, that he'd hurt me. He wouldn't be able to do it. Well, about 3 pumps in, Ross spun his load and ushering in a classic comment from me, already? Well, I guess Ross enjoyed it or something to prove, because we had impromptu sex in the middle of our regularly scheduled blowjobs on his request. One time he said, I just wish we had more time, and so I knew he had developed lust for me after a fashion. One of our last days together, I had him switch cells and spend the night with me. Made love, cuddled, then made dinner, and just laid there and talked for a couple hours. Sex had been romantic and thorough, and the conversation deep and full of meaning. Before we went to sleep, I asked I asked if he wanted head one more time, and he said he was down for a quickie. What I didn't know was the danger of butt sex after a huge meal. And so that was when I accidentally shit all over the man I loved, John Rawls. That's ridiculous. We were separated randomly after that. I was able to pass him a few notes before I got transferred to my next facility. It was weird getting readjusted to being solo again. I had been a we and us for almost half a year, but I found myself and have been forever changed by my experience with Ross. There is a magic that words cannot capture that is developed when you connect with someone on that level, when you spend that much time together. Ross taught me to be strong, confident, to stand up for myself. He taught me to stay focused, to be myself, and that I'm capable of obtaining any goal I set for myself. He came at a time in my life where I was at an all-time low, and through our interactions and experiences, I am now in one of the best mindsets and physical health I've ever been. I understand now that you can't make someone love you. I can only jam a circle peg into a square hole so many times before something breaks. That being said, the future holds infinite possibilities. All that is certain is that I made a lifelong friend this year who I'm certain I will see again one day soon. God bless you, John Rawls. You're a rock star. It's sad, right? Yeah. Hold on, I've got another. There's got a beautiful letter in here I want to add to the situation too. I'm recording this thing. All right, this is a reading of a journal entry from Tyler's autobiography titled The Spider, the Fly, and the Web. It is aged 24 to 26, written in 2018 and takes place during the years of 2015 and 2017, which is about 4 years ago.
So let us pray.
And let us get it on.
JK.
Let's get it on. No. After TJ went away to prison, I was forced to get off drugs, save for a select untestable few. Things became stable for me for a long time. I acquired a job serving tables at a restaurant called Jalapenos, and eventually became somewhat of a head server, then bartender. This allowed me to gain structure and discipline in my life by offering a routine to fall into, and my bank account rose to about $2,000 in spending money at one point. All of my co-workers loved me. My job depended on me to fulfill in gaps others left, and my customers enjoyed my presence. Truly, I was great at what I did. I was also very healthy. I had a counselor who I felt I could speak to about my issues, was on proper medication for depression and anxiety until the two were virtually gone from my life, and I had implemented exercise into my day-to-day. The exercise eventually, like so many other times before, fell to the wayside as my hours at work increased and my weight got to the highest it had ever been, about 196, which is 50 or 60 pounds more than what I weigh now.
Sure, fatty.
Still, I had never had any mass behind me, and so the experience was not one that caused me great grief, but rather fascination. I lived with my grandmother and grandfather and helped them out without question. We were a family, and I went to visit my mother regularly, who was at the time one of my managers. So we always had work stuff to gossip about. Life was regular and acceptable. I even went back to college and brought my GPA up from a 0.8 to a 3.2 in 2 semesters by retaking classes. I'll never forget the host at my work telling my mom that I was such a good person, it made her sad that she wasn't a better person too. That's ridiculous. I had completely redefined myself, and on various fronts I was happy. But it was not enough. Probation lasted a year, and as the date approached, I knew I was going to relapse on meth immediately. A part of me told myself the only way I could stay clean would be to promise myself I'd begin using as soon as the metaphorical gun was lowered from my head. Although my life was happy, successful, and growing, there was something missing that I promised myself I would find. Some remnant of my past that I would fill the void my drug abuse had left. The voice that tells and told me to turn to drugs again is one that does not think things through, or perhaps does but fails to see the big picture. If I can scout out what it was that my life was truly missing, it was a social life that lived up to my standards. Since drugs have been used as a crutch for so long, I didn't honestly know how to make and maintain new friendships. My soul has always craved this idea of love that I have never received. I thirst for it. The idea that drugs catapult you into a world full of people is not a lie. However, finding or creating anything real in that world while maintaining success and self on a higher vibration is what is difficult. I felt I needed a nudge into the door of others' hearts and minds, and drugs were the plan to get me there. I got off probation and relapsed on the same day, and almost every day after that for 14 months. The first thing to go was counseling. I wasn't required to go and stop taking all my meds, so the secret wall I had developed made the entire experience seem stressful and fundamentally fake, and so I became my own counselor. I have been robbed by my friend Brian O'Neill for a PlayStation 4 that was my friend's, and he hadn't paid me back a loan he had received from me for a couple $100s, which he did eventually, a couple years later, get in contact with me and actually paid me all that back. So thank you, Brian. This this enraged me, but when I feel shorted, I go about things very cloak and dagger style. Brian had recently met a girl who he described as being one of the coolest people he had ever met. Literally, his eyes would glaze over with love in them upon talking about her, and I knew to control her was to control him. Her name was Julia Elizabeth Malone, and I would eventually fall in love with her. Jules was 19, but barely and had a bubbly personality, outgoing with youth and vigor. We were all much older than her, if much counts as 6 or 7 years. At that age it does. Jules had never done meth before meeting Brian. I met her at a party, sent her a message or two, and then made my move one day when she was stuck at work with no ride home. Seizing the opportunity, I had my friend swoop in, pick her up, and drop her off at my grandparents' house, where she spent the night that evening. We smoked meth and dropped a small amount of acid, and I picked her brain. I'm sure the influence of psychedelics and uppers helped, as well as the non-threatening environment women feel around me, a self-proclaimed gay man. But for a year after that point, we both held tight to the fact that it was fate that brought us together, that we just clicked so uniquely and apparently that we had to have been destined to be in each other's lives. But a year later, all secrets were swept away into the fire. And although we did get along like peanut butter and jelly, she was my ace in the hole as an attempt to get back at Brian, and I was her means of outsourcing in the drug world, a safety net into a dangerous game of meth heads, sexually frustrated souls, and morally gray individuals who would have eaten her alive had I not gotten there first. The job and my weight were next to go. My personality had shifted as a result of meth injections, and some days I twitched, other days I was reserved, and still others I would sweat horrifically. I went to work fucked up.
You were a sweater.
Someday I was fat, and I was moving. So, sweating every day and talked to hundreds of people through the week. My attitude grew reserved from having to put so much energy into suppressing facial fidgeting, not over-talking, maintaining regularity. It made every moment I spent in society a show where all eyes were on me and I no longer was the belle of the ball. I dreaded and feared work, not wanting to come down but not wanting to be too high. Some days I had been up for almost a week and the anxiety plagued me like a ghost, the phantom of my addiction. I lost weight rapidly, and my 196 pounds dropped to 160 in just a few weeks. I was working stressing and injecting so much while sleeping and eating so little, I seemed to turn around and it was all gone. At first I denied I was losing weight, and then I tried saying I was exercising again and then dieting. It went so fast that I didn't have a plausible excuse anymore to justify its depletion, and eventually I just smiled and said, "Yeah, I sure am losing weight," and just left the comment there. My fear and dread turned to outward hate for my coworkers and customers, and my loss in weight made it harder and harder to carry heavy trays or run around for long periods of time. My mental fortitude dropped and began forgetting things, not organizing my tickets correctly, putting orders in wrong, and to be so good at something and then to not be any longer was humiliating. I began to not even look people in the eyes by the end of it. When my mom quit because she had been having problems with the other manager, I piggybacked on her resignation, quitting my job I'd had for over a year, just never showing up one day. The weight on my shoulders felt lifted, and all responsibility had vanished. I was free to focus on me and partying. Only a few weeks after meeting Julia, Brian was forced to move away for rehab, he told Jules, but I don't think he ever went. With him gone, Julia was at a loss for supplying her newfound meth addiction. She had attempted once and had been ripped off and hit on to the point she felt unsafe going that route anymore. I rationalized that I could minimize the girl's risk by taking her under my wing, but the honest truth is I was using Julia for two reasons. The first was for companionship. Julia sparked a creative side in me I had never known. We would record ourselves on video, dancing, singing, talking, and drugging. This was a form of self-reflection I had never explored. To watch myself on video brought to light all sorts of mannerisms and personality traits I had never seen. It was like she brought me out of this shell society had forced me into, this facade or illusion, and I was seeing myself truly for the first time. I would then take the videos, blend them together with video editing, and create art out of our memories, glimpses into ourselves, photos, music videos, interviews, and dances. Literally thousands of hours we recorded in a year's time. The camera was always on, and we rarely slept, and so the party raged, and we slowly reinvented ourselves while simultaneously losing ourselves in the process.
Pound by pound.
It was terribly creative and destructive at the same time. Julia got better at singing and guitar, and I got better at being a wordsmith, a dancer, a pianist, and we were both losing things in the process. We neglected to see this and focused on the positive, the euphoric bliss that had hovered within us and around us. The second reason or way I used Julia was as a social catalyst. I never pimped her out or anything, but Julia was beautiful and talented and possessing a certain air to her that drew men in and left them wanting. Both of us desired love, companionship, and drug connections, and I was the mastermind behind acquiring these connections and often manipulated the status quo in order to get the dope, the hot guys, the party. When the when the men when the money when the money ran dry, I had in the bank, my powers of sometimes cruel and cutthroat persuasion were at an all-time usefulness, and Jules and my life seemed to depend on it. I coined many phrases at the time. One in particular was, said the spider to the fly. Julia was sharp, never fully putting herself outside the analogy. One day she asked me, am I a spider or a fly? And before I could answer, she met my gaze and answered herself. I'm the web, aren't I? The constant companion and desire to have no restrictions led me to move out of my grandparents' house. This was coupled with the increased anxiety felt as a symptom of being high around my grandparents and having to constantly explain my weight loss, my lack of ambition towards getting a job, my fluctuating temperament, and my awkward drug-related mannerisms. Plus, I wasn't eating, sleeping, and was constantly obsessed with some project. It had also began stealing from my grandparents, which filled me with shame, though not enough to stop from doing it. Upon moving into my mom's, everything seemed to get better. Julia and I had spent Thanksgiving and Christmas together, and the girl and I became inseparable. As I had wanted, I had developed a steadfast bond with another, and my loneliness was appeased. I feel like I had a similar effect on Julia. We didn't have sex, but our bond was mental, emotional, and spiritual. Being a gay man who has never been in a relationship, this dynamic brought out a sort of subconscious desire and design that I had, where it felt like I was normal, had a beautiful girlfriend who depended on me and was living the life I wanted, filled with excitement, no responsibility, and control. I felt like a man, which has always been a sought-after complex of mine. I felt I felt needed and popular, in charge, and in touch with creativity, God, and the universe. I rationalized that I had not given Jules her first hit of meth, so the role I played was all right. In retrospect, is the first hit all that important, or the million that comes after that? Meth was my way of controlling the attention and maintaining the life I had found myself in. I did not my best to try and instill positive themes within the escapade: self-compassion, love, self-reflection, creativity, hope, God. But almost in spite of myself, I was equally representing dark cunning, lies, theft, isolation, and many other morally decrepit actions and ideas. I was not practicing what I had preached, nor leading by example. I was not able to maintain our addiction with thievery and cunning alone, and so I became a celebrity personality and middleman for a while. This meant I would get picked up by people and get dropped off and score the dope, pinch the bag, and then, as compensation for the risk and the source of the person in question I copped for, would have to get me high as payment, and insert Julia into the equation for sexual frustration and appeal, and provided my mom's house as a safe location to party and bullshit, you have a successful couple of months of getting high every day on someone else's budget. Meth makes people open up and talkative too. So during this period, it seemed as if I went through many, many marriages with people. In this way, I'm thankful for the experiences of getting to know and understand people better. But idealistically, I am ashamed of all the people I went through, milking them cows in a pasture, and then discarding them when they would go dry. This continued until I had run out of angles, or realistically patience. The whole process was very costly, and I spent most of my day texting, plotting, scoring, and then repeating. I was doing everything a dealer was doing, but taking more risk for less reward in actuality. When the opportunity arose for me to start selling the meth I was in pursuit of every day, I jumped on the opportunity. I began getting large amounts of meth fronted to me and selling it from my house. This enabled me to support my habit, Julia's, and then my mother's while making little money on the side and keeping the party going. I had cut out a couple of steps in the process and was able to work from home. Things seemed to fall in place, and I made all the rules and had all the power. And that's when I got sloppy, trusting too many people, widening my circle of clientele too broadly. Honestly, trust is hard enough to come by in the world in general. And add addiction, desperation, and the possibility of incarceration, then it is nearly non-existent. My source eventually got busted, and before that, someone had worn a wire on me, setting a chain of events in motion I would be unaware of for months. Julia's life had started to decline as well. By prioritizing partying with me, she had ostracized herself from her family, who became worried, and during an argument with me, she had been pulled over and her license was eventually suspended for reckless driving. She had been speeding in a school zone because of our argument on whether or not to re-up or not. She continued running late for work and was eventually moved into the night shift. After falling asleep multiple times during the shift, she was fired. This affected her home life in a more direct way than normal because the job she had was one that both her parents had held for many years. Her father was also a counselor of sorts at the local CSB, so he knew what it looked like in terms of addiction. There is a feeling of closeness or even love, for lack of a more profound word, that developed during this time that words are not able to express clearly. It's as if at some point in time, between all of the rushes of day and trials by fire, this thing that was beyond sexual gratification, beyond the here and now, not devoid of need certainly, but something magical nonetheless had blossomed between Julia and I. I loved her deeply in a very painful way, because although I was giving her what she wanted and expanding her mind and horizons while keeping her safe from outside forces, I was inadvertently and indirectly causing the outward deterioration of her life. I could not protect her from herself or myself. It's this paradox of simultaneously helping and loving while hurting and destroying someone that seems to have been a recurring theme in my life, both as the victim and the assailant. She was there one day, and the next she was gone. Feeling she needed help, Julia's parents gave her an ultimatum: get treatment or move out. She chose treatment and was spirited out of my life for several months. Julia's absence left me wounded, while my addiction left me weakened. With my source no longer providing me with quantifiable amounts of meth, I was left to scrounging again. This time, people were onto my game, as if my outward expression screamed junkie. My depression escalated, and spent most of my time by myself. At this point, my mother started dating someone new. Or more specifically, she had several men frequenting the house, all meth users. But my mom and I had become very close while I was dealing drugs, and I had supported her habit. I thought we had bonded. Upon me no longer having the drugs, my mom quickly detached, no longer hanging out with me anymore. And it seemed this is 6 years ago.
She was like, "Who is you, y'all?"
And it seemed like she had replaced me with these other men. This furthered my depression and my gloom. As if to gain brownie points, these suitors would get me high, effectively winning my approval. This would in turn make my mom furious. She did not want to share, and their dope was her dope. I remembered the bitter emotions that surfaced from this period, such as not feeling loved, not having my loyalty and generosity reciprocated when I was down and out, and the feeling that my mom was threatened by me, that she had used me and never really loved me to begin with. And you know what? That's exactly what I felt 2 days ago, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Funny, I couldn't have said it better myself, how time goes in a circle. Then life sent me something that changed my way of thinking. A steady supply of LSD. I've always been a fan of psychedelics, but I had only used them on and off in my lifetime. Last year, over the course of months, I ate somewhere along the spectrum of 100 hits of powerful LSD. To some, this would have caused insanity, but since my life had descended into insanity already, psychedelics proved me with temporary strength and clarity. First, I began to reconnect with my emotions again, the happy ones. I began creating and exploring the expanse of my mind instead of just moping. I fell back in love with myself and wept tears of joy and acceptance for who I was, beyond my circumstances. I built a sensory deprivation room or chamber in my closet that allowed me to minimize outward distractions and really soak in the experience of my trip, feeling the light, the sound, and the projecting of my thoughts interactively. Oh. Hey, yeah. And we'll be right back with just... Right back, chick. Well, see, immediately it's a pronunciation or an enunciation issue. It's like when you say, "Hey Alexa, I want you to understand what I'm saying." When the recorder goes on, there is a clearing of the throat, and then a sudden vulnerability. I'm not vulnerability, but you know what I mean. I'm gonna hit this real quick. And by that, I mean the punching bag in the space of my mind. Because like Rocky Balboa, I am going to, like you in the video of unlocking your door and using a tool, it's kind of an epic scene. It's very theatrical. What would you like to say? Or I feel like I've been interruptive.
I don't care. I'm relaxed.
I feel like I talk so much that nobody has a word edgewise.
I wanted to say a lot. Like, I had a lot to say, but it's okay. It's okay. Like, I wanted a lot. Like, I had a lot of responses, but I couldn't get them in because you were like, but that's okay. That's
why I'm going to be quiet for a little bit. Or, it's not okay. It's me.
Right. It's you. It's okay.
No.
Like, it's
rude.
If it was, it's me, so I wouldn't consider it, like, I wouldn't think that if I were you, I wouldn't consider it rude because it's me. It's just me. Like, it's just good old me.
Is it though?
Now, if it were like the president or something, sure, it would be very rude.
Thank you for saying.
But it's
it
me.
Still needs to be corrected. It's rude. It needs to be corrected and it's rude. You can't let your fucking dogs run all over town, shit in the neighbor's yard, and such as you have to be responsible for the animals. You have to be responsible for the part of yourself that goes around and does whatever it wants and has to know there's order going to be established. And so I need to hold myself accountable, and I need to condition myself to not be rude, regardless of whether it's you or the president, the Queen of England. So
Queen of England,
right?
right?
Oh my goodness. Off with his head for certain. Ooh. See, with the torch hit, you get a big hit, but if you have one of these, you can get two smaller hits.
I burn it with that. I have a tendency. I usually do it really quick because, like, I'm horrible at that one.
They say practice makes perfect.
They do.
But who am I to get?
Practicer.
Who am I to get all metaphysical with definitions?
Where is the
where is the item in time and space?
No, the remote. Remember I gave you the remote?
I carried it out of here. Do you need it?
You carried it out of here?
I carried it out of here, yes. I was being very sloppy. Or is it?
Where did you
It's not one of these. It would be downstairs somewhere. I can go get it and be back in 35 seconds. Are you sure?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean,
you asked for it. Sorry. It's like, why would he ask for it if he didn't want it? Or he just doesn't. Or
it's not that important.
Why is he holding an object? Or are you wanting to get the lights running? So many things. Look, there's a balance. So many things happen, and I don't understand them in my world. And for many years, I didn't speak up, and I just lived in fog. I just kind of projected mirages on things. But now I found that, like when I looked into someone's eyes and thought that I knew who they were and what love was.
Right.
But no. Nothing. It's a balance between too much words, not enough doing stuff, and being too scared to speak up and being lost in the fog of illusion.
That's how you were growing up.
Yeah, I didn't speak. I was a people pleaser, and so I would assess what a person wanted me to be, or it's very much like being in a restaurant.
I
A
would
restaurant
love
for a
that.
house. You go to
Yeah.
a table, and within a few seconds, you have to figure out exactly: are you going to be in a business meeting, or are you going to be in the ghetto, in the hood, and what is the accent that you're going to,
Right.
so you can communicate to the table, so you can get the best tip and provide them the best service and communicate effectively. And so within a second, you have to be like.
This is what I gotta do.
Hey guys, it's about 6 of you guys, 6 top. You guys are all males, about 22, 21 years old or less. You guys college students. Well, my name's Tyler, and I just want to let you guys know that we have drafts on special, and I'll be right back to take your order.
Because one, we're college students and we're broke.
Hey, it's gonna be okay. I apologize. I have to go real quick. This is clunky, but now I'm at a table and there's 6 women. They're the same age variety. It's like, hey guys, my name's Tyler. I just started working here, so
Right.
go easy on me, please. You can do I get you guys to start off with any appetizers today, or let's
What
say,
if it's
let's say
older?
there's older people.
Yeah.
Hello.
No,
hello.
I'm talking about 70-year-old grandmothers, like 60, 70-year-old.
I'm going to go to the man, or I'm going to immediately distinguish which one is the alpha, the one I'm going to be looking at directly, or the one that might be possibly buying or paying for the party, of course, too, because they're
Right.
the tip bearer,
Right.
but the head of the household. And I'll be like, hello guys. Well, my name is Tyler, and I'm just going to be taking your look. Ooh, it's a youthful. I'm flunky, and I'm on dope, and also my 4th heart chakras. Usually I'm much, but it helps you to assess your environment and to be able to read your audience. And audience is key for the delivery of the message.
Right. I mean, that's who you're delivering.
And it's also
to,
getting
so-
that money, getting that as a restaurant. So it's doing your job better in a sense if you're working to get paid.
Right.
But
Well, you're working. You're working to get paid. Ooh.
well, as a server, you're working to get paid, but
Well,
you're also
if you're
working for
working-
customer satisfaction and customer service. You know, you want to be able to provide the best service and then get tipped as a result, and also make a connection.
Right.
There's a connection that must be established. And if I went to the table like, hey, gentlemen, my name is Tyler. I know you guys are young, dumb, and full of cum. And are we? They'd be like, who's this guy? Why is he hitting on us? I'd be like, well, that's now hold on. And then I go to the other ones like, ladies. Like, no, those people do not. Those are not getting good tips, and those people are getting laughed at, and that's not appropriate at either table, right?
Right.
Because yeah, because we got the boys club, and then we have fucking sexual harassment of another. But you have to know exactly. You have to know where your dog's at. You have to keep them on a leash in your yard, and you need to walk them 2 times. Okay, that's a metaphor. It's just getting conscious of your communication and your language and your audience.
Right.
I don't know where that came from, but I liked it. Dexterity increased by 1
Increased by 1%.
1 point. What is your greatest strength?
Again, I'm average.
No, what is your greatest strength, or what is something that you feel that you do?
I'm my
Awesome.
average with everything. What? Let me ask you that same question.
I'm just I find that my writing is something that I have a voice through, or I need to do more of. Or okay, thank you. Footprint. No, I feel like I write well, or I think I'm a pretty good writer.
But that's your strongest.
No.
Or what did you ask me? What is your
greatest?
greatest
I said your
strength?
greatest
Yeah.
strength.
So
I
what
like
is-
writing. You see, look, there we go. There's my own. I couldn't say what my greatest strength is because it's apples and oranges in a sense. I do writing very well, but there's other things that I shine at as well. I have trouble. Okay, one story. Okay.
Okay.
I'm in the Toys R Us with my mom, and I'm like 4 or 5 years old, and we're getting video games. I'm allowed to have one video game. I break down in tears because I can't choose. Because there's any choice that you make, you'll be losing the other choice. Or I can't.
Both are better options.
Well, it's just
Oh, yeah.
it's hard to pick to choose. your favorite on things. Sometimes, not necessarily if you're decisive, but there's, but then, anyways, I get both of the games because it's like,
You started crying.
because I started, yeah, but I didn't choose, but that has nothing to do with it. But that is a fun fact, is not? No, it's me downstairs not knowing which shirt. Do you want a sweater or do you want a coat? And I say I'm impartial. You pick for me. It's me not designating properly. And let's get it. We're going to designate properly in the future. Mindfulness. Thank you for letting me share. But no, I have trouble picking my favorite. My greatest strength would be a loaded coin within the questions, the words, okay? Not greatest strength, but something that you feel that you do really well and that you're proud of. And that would be writing for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I can write very well. Very, very well. Like, I remember grammar. I like grammar, English grammar. Do I know everything? No, I'm not claiming to know it all, but I love English grammar, and I think that's one of my strengths as well. But I wouldn't say that's like my greatest.
What do you do for fun that you really love?
I don't do anything, really. I really don't. I just, ever since I went into depression mode, it's like I don't really.
You don't do anything for fun?
I mean, I like my family. I hang out with my siblings. I like hanging out.
So you feel alive and enthralled in a social dynamic, especially with family or with people that you're close with.
People that I'm close with, and people I'm not close with anybody unless it's my significant other, and my family. I'm just close to my family. I don't have that many friends. I don't, if any, So
sociality used to be something that
I told you I was socially very awkward growing up. Like, I was very, very socially awkward.
I was
shy.
It's funny that I wanted to do something that you're good at. There's positive energy invested in something that you feel that you do really well, but it seems that we've somehow navigated to something that you're bad at, or some kind of, and that has a negative value to it, I think.
No, I told you.
Don't draw awareness to what you were terrible at, or a time, or something that you don't have anything of, or something. I just want, if you don't have an answer, that's okay. It's fine. I wanted you to talk about something that you find pride in and that you love, and that it's a positive thing. Not
that's different.
A time that there was darkness.
Something that I love doing.
It's words. Mm-hmm. I wanted you to get happy and not think about bad stuff. Stop it. But yeah.
No, I mean, hold on. One at a time. I'm going to answer your
question. I know. I'm sorry.
It's not. Now I lost my train of thought.
No, you started. Well, you were.
You
going
said
to,
I was doing focusing on the negative.
Yeah, we started,
like, what did I say that was negative?
We started off asking what we were good at and what we love, and you started talking about how you don't have any friends, and that there was something you were bad at, or it was a negative thing. But let's forget about that, and let's go back to the original question. Let's get back to the positive.
I'm average on everything.
There's nothing that you enjoy or you love, or
enjoy and love. Okay, so that's different. Okay, enjoy and love. I love anything outdoors. Love. Mm-hmm. Like anything green, like trees, forests.
Like hiking and stuff, or
hiking. I love hiking. Yeah,
we should go on a hike sometime.
We should. Uh-huh. Yeah, I agree. I love. What else do I love? There are other things that I love. I just love hiking. Lately, I've been doing the selfie thing. That's within the past week or so.
My energy's weird, isn't it?
What do you mean?
I'm seeing myself in you, and when I'm speaking, I don't have happiness in my eyes about certain things, do I? I have a weird energy thing going on, don't I?
I haven't looked.
It's meth in the fourth chakra. I don't know.
Meth in the fourth chakra.
The fourth chakra is your heart chakra. It's your emotions. I want you to get excited, but I feel like when you talk about things that you enjoy, you're not getting excited, because I feel like we've merged within the emotional qualities because of the consciousness shift within the drugs that we're doing, which is no big deal. So
it's like I'm just
worth observing. But it's okay. But I saw myself for a second. I want to talk about something that would make you happy and make you more confident. But then I saw myself being, like, maybe not possessing certain qualities that are designated with emotional content, where I was like,
oh, you wanted a specific answer, but
no, I saw myself in you, but it's okay. No, it's okay. I wanted to make you smile, but I don't think that we're going to get there this way. Let's turn around. Like, okay. Oh, you want to do selfies? Oh, you're doing selfies. Okay.
No, I'm looking at the lighting. I need to get the lighting right.
See, I don't care the way things look. Stop it. Let the boy talk.
You don't what?
I don't care the way things, or it's about as above, so below, but it's about me not being, it's Rochambeau. And it's like, let's connect with our environment. But then he said, I just care about what things mean and I don't care about what they look like. And that's foolish because you should be, but not necessarily. It's just where he's at. Yeah, that's why I'm not very aware of my environment, because this physical attributes of an item or the qualities that they possess, all I care about is that the light illuminates the room, or that it makes...
Oh, I can illuminate it. Here you go.
Oh, look, and see, there is some qualities that I look. I love the I love the extension of self within clapping your hand for a room. Where I do like some things about the. I like the coolness of.
I love these lights. I don't know why.
But that is the.
There you go. I love the lights.
Look, okay.
There you go. I pepped up when I said that. I love the lights.
What's the light mean to you? Like the butterfly.
What does it
symbol.
mean to you?
What does the light mean?
It doesn't mean anything. It's just cool. Like, it's just really cool.
The aesthetic quality of it, like.
Not necessarily the aesthetic qualities of it, because I mean you can do that with any
It looks beautiful.
light, but I mean they look like ordinary bulbs.
What
But
make-
the lights
why
that
do you like
they, I like it. It has the different colors. You can change different colors.
It gives an ambiance. It's like red light would cause
Ambient lighting,
passion.
yeah.
Mhm.
Ambient
It has
lighting,
it.
right.
Okay. I like that
So
too.
I do like
the
lights.
candle that I was
There you
bitching,
go.
the candle I was bitching about outside. I was like, no,
were you
let's do the candle and not the other light. There was a certain air to the candle flame that I thought was enchanting.
When
It was an enchanting
you weren't bitching
aura.
about the candle.
Look, and be nice to yourself. It was a teak wood, or no, no, I was. Remember, you were like, turn that light on, and I was like, can we light the candle? And you
Right.
said it was going to be dangerous, and I said, please. It was
How is
'cause
that bitching about the
it was me
candle?
wanting a certain light. It was me me relating that to you looking at a light and smiling. Because it was so important to me in that moment that we had candlelight and not the other. There is a certain ambiance that's presented with the tone of a light.
But I usually keep it red all the time, even when no one is here. It's like red.
I've
I don't know
sterilized
why.
red. I've sterilized.
I like red.
I like red as a warrior on a battlefield because red is also fury and power, and also, but no, red as passion has led me astray. And Whore of Babylon is a dancer now, and she will turn. I don't know. Anyway, stop it. I lived through a red period, and to me, right now, I'm going through the expression of love and its relation to lust and the value of sex in general and sexual identity, perhaps. The second chakra, okay, anyways, all that aside, red as a passion element or as perhaps you were saying a sex house. No, that's not what you were saying. Look, I said passionate chateau. But before that, you said love shack, baby. No, he didn't. You said that red light. How did you connotate your house? Or you said that
Somebody
red.
said that it's
what
a
did red light mean to
prostitute
you?
house, or it's a sex house. That's what somebody else said.
No,
I didn't know about it.
It was a positive. I tried to put positive. I said a
did.
passionate chateau. But
Right.
before that, there was a negative quality.
I said it's a sex house.
A sex house, okay.
Or not a hostel. A broth. No, I didn't say brothel. It's a sex house. That's somebody else described it as. Those are.
I was trying to quote you, but I didn't want to put words in your mouth. So
No, I think that's what they said. Like it's a red. Then they were like, oh, well, red signifies.
you like red. Action. Let me catch my breath for a moment. But I just wanted to let you know that I just turned earlier. We didn't record anything because I failed to understand my technology very well. But I fixed the problem. Phew. Me dancing and singing and talking to myself is not very inclusive to
No, if there's a photographer, you gotta the photographer will. If he's
You're doing photography and I'm doing dance stuff, but
Yeah,
what I'm saying is don't let me you do what you're doing, but I feel like within a conversational domain like I was trying to do originally, there is the opportunity for us to do things in concurrence and together. And I feel like I've been trying to figure out, because I don't know. Okay, one story. Yeah, Brit. There was a young boy who didn't think that he was very cool or masculine. Oh, we're going there. Look. And he used drugs as a commonality and a medium for all social engagements from a very young age. And so he met a large variety of people and from all kinds of different backgrounds and all kinds, because he had the commonality of not partying necessarily, but drugs and vice. But later in his life, he found that he didn't exactly know what to do. If you took that away, if you take drugs away, what do you do when you're with people in a social, or what do you He learned that he didn't have anything to put there. If you take it away, but he could learn. But he was. It was a question he asked for many years. Still don't know. I don't know what to do with people very well. I'm trying to find a social or engagement, but I'm eccentric and weird. That's not true. Okay, that's not the point. No, it's I don't know I don't know what to do with people. Now stop it and stop whining. That's crazy. Hey, Teakwood on that shit.
You don't know what to do. What?
I don't know how to.
What
I don't know medium. If we're not smoking dope or doing drugs, what are we doing together?
You don't know what to replace.
What are we doing? Or like how? If not just us, but with anybody. If it's almost like you take that away,
That we wouldn't be hanging out.
I would never. I wouldn't. I would become a hermit alone in the woods, and I would probably live a very happy life. But I wouldn't be able to. There is no social. It sterilizes sociality because I'm just without. Somehow it's like it just makes me stutter and nothing ever gets found. That's not it, and that's not how you say it. Be nice to your own self. Hey, Teakwood. I don't know what to do with people. So it just ends up me trying. Like little engine. I think I can. It's like.
Well, what do you want to do though?
I want to find something that we can both find. Like I feel alive when I dance.
We're both the fact that we're in.
I feel alive when I dance.
Okay.
We're doing something right now.
And the fact that we're in this room together, for me, that's like plenty. Like you
No,
can be doing your own thing. I could be doing my own thing. Like
we could be doing our own things. Yeah. It's one of those things that I'm trying to work on about myself because I'm very socially. I don't know. I find humans very odd. I don't know how to. I don't know how to relate to them.
Who?
Humans. In a social context that doesn't have drug abuse as the common medium of engagement. Once you have that, then you can just vibe and get to know a person in a way. But it's like I find myself staring at a bubble and seeing like a crystal ball.
You said you like to dance. Dance.
Well, I love
dance
dancing,
away.
but
I can't dance.
I'm not. I know. That's
So
what I mean.
yeah, like
I want to do something with you. I don't want to just be in the same room. I want to dance with your spirit. But I know
energy. I'm.
it's not about just right now, but it's about just it's
In general.
It's in every dynamic across the board. What do I do with people with not drugs?
Right.
I just find myself getting super fucked up every day, but experiencing joy within groups, but also simultaneously feeling quite alone. Like the cellular conversation was, his penis was boycotting the whole thing because it just wanted a good conversation and a good hobby that was in common. Stop it. Oh.
That's what I like. I like it.
I don't know how to I don't know how to get it from words, and I don't know how to get it.
Stop being ambiguous.
And if I sit and just wait for it to happen, it never does. I just end up sitting there and wishing that I could run in a field like a horse. Oh, so I just dance alone, and so I'm alone even when I'm with people, and it makes me sad.
I'm right here.
I don't know. Hey, thank you for letting me share.
Right
Thank you
now.
for letting me share, and now I don't have to sound so whiny when I say it. Thank you for letting me work. Hey, that's funny. There's like this inner child that's like wounded. Yeah, thank you for helping me acknowledge that and like kind of, jeez. Could I have a sip of that?
Sure.
Will you toss it gently up? Oh, that's just like a little thing I like to do. Or you can be part of my dexterity training, and it can almost give us a smile at some point later on because you'll be like, if I were to die, someone tossed a beverage across the room or something, and someone caught it, you might like even think of me for a moment. It's like a fingerprint. Oh, you didn't listen or do what I said, but that's okay.
I didn't hear what you said. It would be a fingerprint. Toss it or toss it up.
Like when I see a butterfly, no, I think of Rebecca, and when I see a ladybug, I think of my mom, right? Well, I asked if you would toss it gently to me, so that I could. I like
in an event,
so that you could hand it to me simultaneously to me getting a point up in my dexterity training, and it would make me smile because I would be engaged in my environment and doing something that is towards a better outcome, like self-mastery or dexterity training. But now I'm once again in hyperspace because I just feel like I'm not living. I'm just sitting around and I don't know how. I want to find love and find friendship, but I want to live and dance. But I want to dance with somebody else, but not literally dancing. I want to connect. And I'm going to. I don't care if I have to take every single variable in the entire universe and put them in a controlled experiment and do independent. I don't care how many, and it's not a bad thing. It's just sometimes it's hard to bridge. Sometimes things are hard in life, and sometimes we're good at them, and sometimes we're bad at them. And thank you for letting me share. Thank you for your patience. There you go. But you're tired tonight, but it's food for thought. We can go hiking, but he's hurt. It's okay. In the future.
It really tastes like beer, didn't it?
Yeah, it has a fermented feel. Take 3. Could I please have some more, good sir? I fancy me a good toke off this glass dick, I think they call it in America. Sucking the old meth penis. Again, Tyler Lee. So sit down, she said. Oh, that's what you do, and you're retarded. Oh, it's like Teakwood. I just had a realization.
What's that?
Look, it's like
What's the realization?
that I should be doing photo stuff with you. Or
I don't take very good pictures, but I'll be your photographer for sure. Just let me know. Just tell me where to point.
I'll do it. Give me a second to suddenly I guess. Oh, give me a second. Ha! There's something. Stop it.
Oh, I do like the purple too.
You're gonna give her a C- on the old glass dick puffin. She getting better at hitting this shit. Not like we have black torch or nothing, but still. No. He doesn't want to hit it, he's doing pictures. I don't want to take pictures. No. It's like,
but you don't have to.
I was the one that brought the idea up. I'm sorry. I just wanted to. It was giving me anxiety.
I'm not taking any of your.
I know it's okay. I'm not gonna say I'm sorry. I'm just I said that I was going to do it, but I don't think that I'm in a very photogenic mode right now.
Yeah, I know.
But it's the idea that counts. So stop it. That's funny. But however, this fascinates me. Sticky bread. Get a dentist or get a job. Oh. It's like be nice to yourself, Teakwood. Jesus, this is getting old. Somebody's been really mean to themselves in their head for a really long time. We can rebuild him. We have the technology. Yeah. Turn those crusty lips upside down. To the world. Okay, no more. Stop it. Couldn't be better. Judgments will be made on at first. If you met me for the first time, you would think that I was the crazy man with the mallet. Oops. Oh, this is my song. Oh my goodness. I made a video. Look, look at this. You don't have to watch it, but I made
You can go downstairs.
No, I don't want to be downstairs. I want to show you something that makes me excited. Oh. Okay. The Spider, the Fly, and the Web, age 24 to 26. Written in 2018, but stretching across the expanse of 2015 and 2017. After TJ went away to prison, and I was forced to get off drugs, save for a select untestable few, things became stable for me for a long time. I acquired a job, acquired a job serving tables at a restaurant called Jalapenos, and eventually became somewhat of a head server, then bartender. This allowed me to gain structure and discipline into my life by offering a routine to fall into, and my bank account rose to about $2,000. All of my coworkers loved me. My job depended on me to fill in the gaps others left, and my customers enjoyed my presence. Truly, I was great at what I did. I was also very healthy. I had a counselor who I felt I could speak to about my issues, was on proper medication for depression and anxiety until the two were virtually gone from my life, and I had implemented exercise into my day-to-day. The exercise eventually, like so many times before, fell to the wayside as my hours at work increased, and my weight got up to the highest it had ever been, about 196. Still, I had never had any mass behind me, and so the experience was not one that calls me. Like so many times before, fell to the wayside as my hours at work increased and my weight got up to the highest it had ever been, 196. Still, I had never had much mass behind me, and so the experience was not one that caused me grief, but rather fascination. I lived with my grandmother and grandfather and helped them out without question. We were a family, and I went to visit my mother regularly, who was at the time one of my managers, so we always had work stuff to gossip about. Life was regular and acceptable. I even went back to college and brought my GPA up from a 0.8 to a 3.2 in 2 semesters by retaking classes. I'll never forget the host at my work telling my mom that I was such a good person it made her sad that she wasn't a better person too. I had completely redefined myself, and on various fronts I was happy. But it was not enough. Probation lasted a year, and as the date approached, I knew that I was going to relapse immediately. A part of me told myself the only way that I could stay clean would be to promise myself I'd start using as soon as the metaphorical gun was lowered from my head. Although my life was happy, successful, and growing, there was something missing that I promised myself I would find, some remnant of my past that would fill the void my drug abuse had left. The voice that tells and told me to turn to drugs again is one that does not think things through, or perhaps does but fails to see the big picture. I can scout out what it was that my life was missing, or if I could, it was a social life that lived up to my standards. Some drugs have been used as a crutch for so long, I didn't honestly know how to make and maintain new friendships. My soul has always craved this idea of love that I have never received. I thirst for it. The idea that drugs catapult you into a world full of people is not a lie. However, finding or creating anything real in that world while maintaining success and self on a higher vibration is what is difficult. I felt I needed a nudge into the door of others' hearts and minds, and drugs were the plan to get me there. I got off probation and relapsed that same day, and every day after that for 14 months. The first thing to go was counseling. I wasn't required to go and stopped taking all of my meds, so the secret wall I had developed made the entire experience seem stressful and fundamentally fake. And so I became my own counselor. I had been robbed by my friend Brian O'Neill for a PlayStation 4 that was my friend's. And so he hadn't paid me back he hadn't paid me back a loan he had received from me for a couple $100. This enraged me, but when I feel shorted, I go about things very cloak and dagger style then. Brian had recently met a girl who he had described as being one of the coolest people he had ever met. Literally, his eyes would glaze over with love in them. It's horrible. upon talking about her, and I knew to control her was to control him. Her name was Julie Elizabeth Malone, and I would eventually fall in love with her. Jules was 19, but barely, and had a bubbly personality, outgoing with youth and vigor. We were all much older than her, if much counts as 6 or 7 years. At that age, it does. Jules had never done meth before meeting Brian. I met her at a party, sent her a message or two, and then made my move one day when she was stuck at work with no ride home. Seizing the opportunity, I had my friend swoop in, pick her up, and drop her off at my grandparents' house, where she spent the night that evening. We smoked shit, dropped a small amount of acid, and I picked her brain. I'm sure the influence of psychedelics and uppers helped, as well as the non-threatening environment women feel around me, a self-proclaimed gay man. For a year after that point, we both held tight to the fact that it was fate that brought us together, that we just clicked so uniquely, and apparently that it had to have been destined to be in each other's lives. But a year later, all secrets were swept away into the fire, and although we did get along like peanut butter and jelly, she was my ace in the hole as an attempt to get back at Brian, and I was her means of outsourcing in the drug world, a safety net into a dangerous game of meth head, sexually frustrated souls, and morally gray individuals who would have eaten her alive had I not gotten there first. The job and my weight were the next to go. My personality had shifted as a result of meth injections, and some days I twitched, other days I was reserved, and still others I would sweat horrifically. I went to work fucked up every day and talked to hundreds of people throughout the week. My attitude grew reserved from having to put so much energy into suppressing facial fidgeting, not over-talking, maintaining regularity. It made every moment I spent in society a show where all eyes were on me, and I no longer was the belle of the ball. I dreaded and feared work, not wanting to come down, but not wanting to be too high. Some days I had been some... Wait a second. Some days I had been up for almost a week, and the anxiety plagued me like a ghost, the phantom of my addiction. I lost weight rapidly. My 196 pounds dropped to 160 in just a few weeks. I was working, stressing, and shooting so much while sleeping and eating so little, I seemed to turn around and it was all gone. At first, I denied I was losing weight. And then I tried saying I was exercising again, and then dieting. It went so fast I didn't have a plausible excuse anymore to justify its depletion. Eventually, I just smiled and said, "Yeah, I sure am losing weight," and just let the comment sit there. My fear and dread turned to outward hate for my coworkers. Turned to outward hate for my coworkers. Keep switching the screen. And customers. And my loss in weight made it harder and harder to carry heavy trays or run around for long periods of time. My mental fortitude dropped, and I began forgetting things, not organizing my tickets correctly, and putting orders in wrong. To be so good at something and then to not be any longer was humiliating. I began to not even look people in the eyes by the end of it. When my mom quit because she had been having problems with the other manager, I piggybacked on her resignation, quitting my job I'd had for over a year, just never showing up one day. The weight on my shoulders felt lifted and all responsibility had vanished. I was free to focus on me and partying. Only a few weeks after meeting Julia, Brian was forced to move away for rehab, he told Jules, but I don't think he ever went. With him gone, Julia was at a loss for supplying her newfound meth addiction. She had attempted once and had been ripped off and hit on to the point where she felt unsafe going that route anymore. I rationalized that I could minimize the girl's risk by taking her under my wing, but the honest truth is I was using Julia for two reasons. The first was companionship. Julia sparked a creative side in me I had never known. We would record ourselves on video, dancing, singing, talking, drugging, This was a form of self-reflection I had never explored. To watch myself on video brought to light all sorts of mannerisms and personality traits I had never seen. It was like she brought me out of the shell society had forced me into. This facade or illusion, and I was seeing myself truly for the first time. I would then take the videos, blend them together with video editing, and create art out of our memories. Glimpses into ourselves, photos, music videos, interviews, and dances. Thousands of hours I recorded in years' time. The camera was always on, and we rarely slept, and so the party raged, and we slowly reinvented ourselves while simultaneously losing ourselves in the process. It was terribly creative and destructive at the same time. Julia got better at singing and guitar. I got better at being a wordsmith, a dancer, and a pianist, but we were both losing things in the process. We neglected to see this and focused on the positive, the euphoric bliss that hovered within us and around us. The second reason or way that I used Julia was as a social catalyst. I never pimped her out or anything, but Julia was beautiful and talented, possessing a certain air to her that drew men in and left them wanting. Both of us desired companionship, and drug connections. I was the mastermind behind acquiring the connections and often manipulated the status quo in order to get the dope, the hot guys, the party. When the money ran dry, I had in the bank. My powers of sometimes cruel and cutthroat persuasion were at an all-time usefulness, and Jules in my life seemed to depend on it. I coined many phrases at this time. One in particular was, said the spider to the fly. Julia was sharp, never putting herself outside of the analogy. One day she asked me, am I a spider or a fly? Before I could answer, she met my gaze and said, I'm the web, aren't I? And the constant company and desire to have no restrictions led me to move out of my grandparents' house. This was coupled with the increased anxiety felt as a symptom of being high around my grandparents and having to consistently explain my weight loss, my lack of ambition towards getting a job, my fluctuating temperament, and my awkward drug-related mannerisms. Plus, I wasn't eating, sleeping, and was constantly obsessed with some project. I had also began stealing from my grandparents, which filled me with shame, though not enough to stop from doing it. Upon moving into my mom's, everything seemed to get better. Julie and I had spent Thanksgiving and Christmas together, and the girl and I became inseparable. As I'd wanted, I had developed a steadfast bond with another, and my loneliness was appeased. I feel like I had a similar effect on Julia. We didn't have sex, but our bond was mental, emotional, and spiritual. Being a gay man who has never been in a relationship, this dynamic brought out a sort of subconscious desire and design that I had, where it felt like I was normal, had a beautiful girlfriend who depended on me and was living the life I wanted, filled with excitement, no responsibility, and control. I felt like a man, which has always been a sought-after complex of mine. I felt needed, popular, in charge, and in touch with creativity, God, and the universe. I rationalized that I had not given Jules her first hit of meth, and so the role I played was all right. In retrospect, is it the first hit all that important, or the million that come after that? Meth was my way to controlling the attention and maintaining the life I had found myself in. I did do my best to try and instill positive themes within the escapades: self-compassion and love, self-reflection, creativity, hope, God. But almost in spite of myself, I was equally representing dark cunning, lies, theft, isolation, and many other morally decrepit actions and ideas. I was not practicing what I had preached, not leading by example. I was not able to maintain our addiction with thievery and cunning alone, and so I became a celebrity personality and middleman for a while. This meant I would get picked up by people, get dropped off, and score the dope. Then, as compensation, the risk and the source, the person in question I copped for, would get me high as a payment. Insert Julia into the equation for sexual frustration and appeal, and provided my mom's house as a safe location to party and bullshit, You have a successful couple months of getting high every day on someone else's budget. Meth makes people open up and talkative too. So during this period, it seemed as if I went through many, many marriages with people. And this way, I'm thankful for the experience of getting to know and understand people better. But dualistically, I am ashamed of all of the people I went through, milking them like cows in a pasture, then discarding them when they would go dry. This continued until I had run out of angles, or realistically patience. The whole process was very costly, and I spent most of my day texting, plotting, scoring, and then repeating. I was doing everything a dealer was doing, but taking more risk for less reward in actuality. When the opportunity arose for me to start selling the meth I was in pursuit of every day, I jumped on the opportunity. I began getting large amounts of meth fronted to me and selling it from my house. This enabled me to support my habit, Julia's, and then my mother's, while making a little money on the side and keeping the party going. I had cut out a couple steps in the process and was able to work from home. Things seemed to fall in place, and I made all of the rules and all of the power, and had all the power. And that's when I got sloppy, trusting too many people, widening my circle of clientele too broadly. Honestly, trust is hard enough to come by in the world in general. Add addiction, desperation, and the possibility of incarceration, then it is nearly non-existent. My source eventually got busted, and before that, someone had worn a wire on me, setting off a chain of events in motion I would be unaware of for months. Julia's life had started to decline as well. By prioritizing partying with me, she had ostracized herself from her family, who became worried. During an argument with me, she had been pulled over, her license eventually suspended for reckless driving. She had been speeding in a school zone because of an argument whether or not we should re-up or not. She continued running late for work and was eventually moved to the night shift. After falling asleep multiple times during the shift, she was fired. This affected her home life in a more direct way than normal because the job she had was one that both her parents had had for many years. Her father was also a counselor of sorts at the local CSB, and he knew what to look for in terms of addiction. There is a feeling of closeness or even love, for lack of a more profound word, that developed during this time that words are not able to express clearly. It's as if at some point in time, between all of the rushes of day and trials by fire, this thing that was beyond sexual gratification and beyond the here and now, not devoid of need certainly, but something magical nonetheless, had blossomed between Julia and I. I loved her deeply in a very powerful and painful way, because although I was giving her what she wanted and expanding her mind and horizons while keeping her safe from outside forces, I was inadvertently and directly causing the outward deterioration of her life. I could not protect her from myself or herself. It's this paradox of simultaneously helping and loving while hurting and destroying someone that seems to have been a recurring theme in my life, both as a victim and an assailant. She was there one day and the next she was gone. Feeling she needed help, Julia's parents gave her an ultimatum: get treatment or move out. She chose treatment and was spirited out of my life for several months. Julia's absence left me wounded, while my addiction left me weakened. With my source no longer providing me with quantifiable amounts, I was left to scrounging again, and this time people were onto my game, as if my outward expression screamed junkie. My depression escalated, and I spent most of my time by myself. At this point, my mother started dating someone now, or more specifically, she had several suitors frequenting the house, and my mom and I had become very close when I was dealing drugs, and I had supported her habit. I thought that, wait a second, it's a little bit hard to read this page. Her habit. Upon no longer having the drugs, my mom quickly detached, no longer hanging out with me for long periods. And it seemed like she had replaced me with other men. This, what is it? This and my gloom, or this introduced element in my gloom, uh, as if to gain. Ooh, this is a page that's hard to read because it's fuzzy. Suitors would get me high. Okay, as if to gain insult to injury. No, frequently. Okay, her suitors would get me high, trying to gain my approval. This would, in turn, anger my mom, or cause her to be furious. She did cause her to be furious. Hold on. Where was it? Oh, she did not want to share, and her dope, or their dope, was her dope. I remember the bitter emotions that surfaced from this period. It's not feeling loved, not having my loyalty, generosity reciprocated when I was down and out, and the feeling that my mom was threatened by me, that she had used me and never really loved me to begin with. Then life shot me something that drained my way of thinking, a steady supply of LSD. I always have been a fan of psychedelics, but I had only used them on and off in my lifetime, a year over the course of months. I can't wait for this page to be done. I ate somewhere between the spectrum of 100 hits of powerful LSD. To some, this would have caused insanity. But since my life had already descended into insanity, psychedelics provided me with temporary strength and clarity. First, I began to reconnect with my emotions again, the happy ones. I began creating and exploring the expanse of my mind instead of just moping. I fell back in love with myself and wept tears of joy and acceptance for who I was, beyond my circumstances. I built a sensory deprivation room or chamber in my closet that allowed me to minimize outward distractions and really soak in the experience of my trip, feeling the light, the sound, the projections of my thought. Oh, okay. In a lot of ways, I feel like this time was greatly similar to my gas people experience, though I never linked the two until now. I became obsessed with self-exploration and healing, and I found my emotions. My mother did not like acid. She was afraid of it. She tried it several times, but it gave her no solace, only overwhelming her, making her afraid. This furthered the divide between us. My meth usage decreased because of my psychotherapy, but I still had a terrible meth addiction that left me in a constant needful desperation. My health and weight were at a severe state of decline, and I lived in this cocoon of pain. One day I decided I was going to change it all. I began to fight for happiness. The first stage was the easiest. I waged war on negativity, thoughts, actions, beliefs. I reprogrammed myself to only allow positive thinking, unless the negative served some higher purpose. I realized that the more I fought to be positive, the more negative my mom began to be toward me and everyone. I examined my life and determined there were two things causing me unhappiness: my health and my relationship with my mother. I began to open up conversations with my mom, and I realized we hadn't been having genuine conversations for a long time. She still held on to resentments from 10 years in the past and was unwilling to forgive. Her guard was up and her words were vicious. I reached out to her so many times and she lashed out, never taking the high ground, always hate, scorn, name calling. I begged her that we could start fresh today, leave the past behind us, and be happy. She called me too sensitive, a space cadet, and said she didn't recognize me anymore. And so I fled. I cried a lot, became stronger. My friend Rebecca picked me up, nursed me back to health for a few days in a camper parked in the woods. I had gotten so unhealthy that I was barely able to stand, just sleep. I got off the meth enough to get dropped off at my grandparents' house, where I made a plea with them to allow me to stay at their house again. They opened their door to me. My health began to increase in my life in general. I still used meth, but in moderation, and I still tripped on acid, but I had reestablished positive association and routine into my life. What had really changed was my heart was somehow much warmer than it had ever been. I understood the concept of being a better person, compassion, love, forgiveness. I spent time improving my health, improving my relationship with my grandparents. My grandfather said he was proud of me and my newfound emotional maturity. Things began to look up. Then the warrant came for my arrest, and once again everything changed. Looking back, I don't know why I reacted so drastically at this dilemma. Sure, it was disappointing. I had made the right decision, brought myself out of a near-death stupor, and was in the process of healing. The looming knowledge that I was eventually going to jail stopped me from progressing and sent me back into a mass spiral of addiction, unbalanced, unhealthy, unfulfilling. I rationalized that I was doing to have fun before I went to jail, that I wanted to use drugs and get that last use or closure before getting on probation for years, and that I wanted to build hold on. Oh my, it seems I have found him. At first, I started my day off happy to see that I was no longer sick and experiencing such sickness feelings as I had the night before. Excuse me. And with more burnt offerings, I then devised that the bowels of Mother Earth should grab me. However, with the poles being reversed, I sat upon my lust towards man, not towards procreation, and found myself on a glorious walk. And the walk took me from a friend's house, where I had planned not to procreate, but to subtract the desire from my bowels. And not bowels neither. Excuse me for trying to be poetic in this sense. I wanted simply to bust one's nut upon a beautiful vessel. And so I went, but did I find, after there was much familial and family-tied oriented enterprises, which I digress to engage upon on this setting. But what did I find but my friend exiting upon his chambers? And upon exiting his chambers, he allowed me to walk with him to and fro, partially, from a friend of his I was unbeknownst to at the time. Well, unbeknownst to me, as I'm walking with my said friend, we begin talking. And what conversation did we find ourselves upon, you might ask? Well, 'twas the conversation of true love, as to where I described to him the concept of virtue with a rabbit as having no virtue, and man as having virtue, having stared at his own monster in the face, and recognizing himself as such by Nietzsche. Also, I planted the idea of manifestation, direct, and the acquisition of true love by sort of manifesting a specific high-resolution image. What is true love, and what does it look like within its many manifolds specifically? To which we continued upon our walk, passing 2 dead squirrels, mind you. An eerie sight. But the moment that struck me in the gut, as I struck a tree with my toes, my foot, trying to do a roundhouse kick, but finding myself to not arc my heel as such, and to hurt my big toe, mostly, what still hurts now. Maybe an act of overplaying represented, but to which the conversation ended up not only escalating within the reversal of parental ownership, where the son becomes the mother and the mother becomes the child within his dialogue about his maternal familial structure, but also in terms of conversations escalated to where he was in love with the woman to which we were on the way, the friend to which we were journeying towards. And within the journeying towards, he had let me know that his friend had suffered a seizure recently. Excuse me for one moment. And so, Alexis, I shall go on. We did come to a point where he had indulged to tell me that the person to which we were delivering to was someone that, without titles, represented was someone that he considered to be a significant other. Titles be free. This expresses a sentimentality of love or great devotion towards her. And so I found as we were walking to her house to buy her groceries from a nearby store and back, the sentimentality expressed within the actions that we were partaking in. And so I knew it to be true, not only by those verifications, but also the verifications that I felt it within, I felt an animation within his expression. And through all of my jokings and reveries came the expression almost on a platform of its own, to which he said that everybody that he knew had consorted to tell him that they felt that this person, whom I've never met before, so I'm unbiased in speaking towards, was maybe a bitch, for lack of better words. I believe he said a bitch specifically, but however, he meant as if all of his friends had thought of this woman to be of a lower caliber or a derogatory sense. But what he recanted was that him and her shared a specific level of engagement that was private to themselves. And also that he felt not only was the level worth and enough to nullify all of the opinions of everyone he knew, but he ended it with a very wise expression, to which I told him that it was very wise words he had spoken. The wisdomatic phrase that he uttered was that sometimes it takes a few engagements with the person in order for them to let down their guard. And upon letting down their guard, of course this is paraphrased, mind you, upon letting down their guard, they show a side to themselves that truly is them and not the guard in which they put upward. So in my journey towards self and my questionnaire about who are you that I have outwardly investigated upon, I am to believe that perhaps instead of an inquiry within a first or second engagement would not yield perhaps as significant of a database spread as multiple times of engagement with a person without such inquiries, and to which the guard of such would be let down, and thereby revealing subconsciously what is to be the true self. The true self is something that only the subconscious knows. The true self is omnipresent. The true self is not unconscious, but not conscious as well. And so by enacting in such an inquiry-based diagnostic, I perhaps am causing a counterproductive measure to where, almost as if an eye that knows it's about to be poked would cover itself up with many more layers. Perhaps too strong of an inquiry into said topics would yield a negation of desired results. And yet, I digress. Maybe I will come on less strongly in the future. He said. Okay. The evolution of love. The concept of love has been one that has been both thrilling, haunting, and fleeting for me. There have been times in my life when I felt such strong and powerful emotional ties that I considered love that I would have died in a heartbeat just to be of some sort of use to the target of my affections. Other times I have lived long periods when those close to me called me cold and sociopathic. During these times, though, I have always had this inner desire or longing for that great love that would set me free, a feeling so all-consuming that it has simultaneously propelled me towards and broken me down into pieces. But what is love? This word, like so many others, is wrapped around 1,000 different moments in time and selectively clumped together into our subconscious. It is a deeply personal and emotional feeling that is interwoven into everyone in different ways, at different times and in varying degrees. Where does love begin for me? I would have to say that it starts with my family and the dynamics I was first introduced to at an early age, mainly my grandparents' marriage and my mother's emotional ambitions. Within my grandparents' marriage, there was a deeply rooted sense of duty, responsibility, and gender roles. Through their commitment, they had achieved financial stability, acquired a family, and I'm going to skip this, but I'm going to go in order, because I wanted to note on my mom's situation more so, because it's like, hold on one second, and once again, I'm screwing up the interface. Don't do what he said. Sweetheart, oh my goodness. Maybe it's a call to, no, here it is. Okay, a lot of times I was reliant on my environment to interact with, such as clouds with no, okay, this is different. Screwed it up. Okay, take two. I like doing that too. It's like when you put it on a recorder, I'm going to delete this one. It calls a certain level of Micah chapter 7 onward. The church's complaint. Woe is me, for I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits, as the grape gleaning of the vintage. There is no cluster to eat. My soul desired the first ripe fruit. The good man is perished out of the earth, and there is none upright among men. They all lie in wait for blood, and they hunt every man his brother with a net, that they may do evil with both hands earnestly. The prince asketh, and the judge asketh for a reward. And the great man, he uttered his mischievous desire, so they wrap it up. The best of them is as a briar, the most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. A day of thy watchman and thy visitation cometh, now shall be their perplexity. Trust ye not in a friend, but ye not confidence in a God. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. For the son dishonoureth the father, the daughter riseth up against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. Therefore I will look unto the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. Rejoice not against me, O mine enemy. When I fall, I shall arise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord shall be a light unto me. I will bear the indignation of the Lord, because I have sinned against him, until he plead my cause, and execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. Then she that is mine enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her, which said unto me, Where is the Lord thy God? Mine eyes shall behold her, now shall she be trodden down as a mire of the streets. In the day that thy walls are to be built, in that day shall the decree be far removed. In that day also he shall come even to thee from Assyria, and from the fortified cities, and from the fortress even to the river, and from sea to sea, and from mountain to mountain. Notwithstanding, the land shall be desolate because of them that dwell therein, for the fruit of their doings. Feed thy people with thy rod, the flock of thine heritage, which dwell solitarily in the wood, in the midst of Carmel. Let them feed in Bashan and Gilead, as in the days of old. According to the days of thy coming out of the land of Egypt will I shew unto him marvelous things. The nations shall see that, and be confounded at all their might. They shall lay their hand upon their mouth, their ears shall be deaf. They shall lick the dust like a serpent, and they shall move out of their holes like worms of the earth. They shall be afraid of the Lord our God, and shall fear because of thee. Who is a God like unto thee, that pardoneth iniquity, and passeth by the transgression of the remnant of his heritage? He retaineth not anger forever, because he delighteth in mercy. He will turn again, he will have compassion upon us. He will subdue our iniquities, and thou wilt cast all their sin into the depths of the sea. Thou wilt perform the truth to Jacob, and the mercy to Abraham, which thou hast sworn unto our fathers from the days of old. Dream log. October 12th, 2020. Nap. I dreamed that I was in an alternate reality. At first, it was as if I was at the beach, but it wasn't a normal beach. It was like a city metropolis type beach area where there was many rooms. My grandma was still alive, and the first part of the dream, it seemed like I was almost in a militaristic scenario where I was running away from another group. It was as if I was playing a game with somebody else as well. It's hard to explain. But within this dream, I almost reached a conclusion to where I was locked in a room, and outside of the room, there was a force that was threatening to kill me and everything, and the bad guy as well. I then awoke from that portion of the dream into another dream, and I was in a hotel room with my grandma. She said that we would be leaving the beach. Upon hearing that, I ran out of the hotel room door and ran down to, I guess, a metropolis area, stating that I would not be leaving, that I would be staying. Within a familiar room within this metropolis, I ran into someone familiar. And it's this room that I later revisited within the second nap that I took today. I woke up, or I went to sleep and woke up within this same room. It was almost as if the entire area was coated red, or like a pink tint. But now I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I went to sleep and I woke up in a bed at my grandparents' house, as if I'd fallen asleep there. But I realized that I'd eaten dinner with my uncle previously to that, and that there's no way that I could have went to sleep. So this is the point where there was lucidity within my dream. Upon experiencing this lucidity, I walked outside into the night and saw that my uncle was sitting in his car. Once I engaged him, he said that technically he was not supposed to inform me, or he was not supposed to tell me about these dream areas. But since I've been there with him so many times previously, he didn't feel that it was that big of a deal, and he started walking. Somehow I ended up at the circle at the bottom of the driveway, and I was sitting there. There was a dog or something moving towards the Rhodes' house. It was still night. This is when I emerged at the metropolis area again. That's pink, in the shack at the beach kind of dwelling. Once inside, it's as if I was another person. I had a conversation with myself, and I forget what the context was, but afterwards I was sucked into the wall, which was almost made of organs. It was almost as if it was alive in a pulsing manner. Afterwards, the being that I was speaking to was also engulfed in the wall. We ended up in this area where there was greater monsters that we were fighting, and I ended up getting taken out by one of these monsters. But that just caused time to rewind. Time rewound, and I was another person in that room again, the pink room that was in the shack within the metropolis. Instead of getting sucked into the wall, this time I went through a door. And once inside the door, I was driving with Katie in a car. We were just conversating as if we didn't realize any of the prior had happened. And suddenly, there was a wreck on the side of the road. There was multiple cop cars. They came alive behind us and in front of us. We went to go drive by the road in a kind of S shape. And then suddenly we started spinning. We did 2 360s that were horizontal based. And then we ended up rolling dramatically down a grassy hill or a grassy knoll. We weren't hurt, and we both got out of the car, and we laughed. I unrolled something and found that there was a lighter and another object, but my mind is hazy. I woke up. I got sent to rehab, and they convinced me. There's a song called "The Logical Song" by Supertramp. It's like they teach you how to be sensible, how to be. They tried to convince me, and they did for a while, that it was a hallucination of my mind. and that it was nothing more than a child trying to have imaginary friends with catalyst effects of drugs. Or today, I would say that the gas people were either the collective unconscious, a series of familiar spirits or energies. I think that I pierced the veil, and what I was interacting with is very much alive to this day. And words don't have.
But it's,
I need to redefine that same energy, though. It's
it's a little young to wanna.
I believe that it is alive. I don't think that I birthed it, but I think that I have a special connection with it, and I do believe that it's conscious, and I do believe that it is.
Yeah, obviously didn't scare you.
No, it doesn't. It's like it's family. In a
Manifestations
sense.
or
But
we have, of yourself, I guess.
whether it's real or not, and whether it is whatever it is just what it is, and
But
It is what it
describe
is.
It as a visual.
what'd you say?
You can't put it into a visual.
Well, sometimes it was cartoon characters. Sometimes it was from a video game. At one point, I'm thinking of Professor Sage from Tales of Symphonia, her son. At one point, my friend Rebecca, they came in at 3-dimensional, and she shot me. But you could always see through when it was 3-dimensional. But it was more of scenes unfolding, and it was kind of like the shimmering thing. But it was the more it would go into layers, the more you would huff and hyperventilate. I see it almost shifts in different.
Not going on here though.
See, what I want is to be able to have that same ocular perception later on in my life, with a more developed insight into the unseen or the unknown. But with a higher form or a better form than gas inhalation.
Okay.
That is terribly caustic to your health and body, and it doesn't work for me anymore. I tried it one time years later. I'm sure I could probably progress my brain into assimilating back to that state, but no, I want to find the portal or the key to plateaus, into extreme. I want to go into the closet in Narnia, or the wardrobe, or I want to fall down the rabbit hole, and I think that the way to get there is psychedelics. In multiple forms and facets.
Say that rabbit hole.
It's a catalytic
I
approach.
That recurring, like where I end up ending in the same place, but
It's a telephone, really, to another place and another time. But I don't really. That's just my intuition about it. But that's the future, and that's something I need to look forward to when I become depressed. And I think I don't feel like my environment represents me. Or like when I got into the whole my country earlier with the look, and I'm being bitchy of myself, but I did go in a little bit of a not brat fit, but I don't like to have negative hater energy like that with no solution as a backing, and without really doing proper research too. I was being a little bit, but in my defense, I've been a little bit of an internalizer and dealing with a lot of emotional quandaries alone. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of white girl express myself this morning. But
because you said it's still fresh.
it's still fresca. Is it fresca? No, stop. But yeah, and that was it. Eric. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of an experiment today. It seems as if I have a good loquaciousness property to me, or it seems as if I am not soft-spoken in the least little bit. However, it seems that when there is vocal range added to the ensemble, so to speak, then what we have is not only the worst singing that I think that I've done in a long time, but the incapacity to be able to come to such a level to where singing happens. So we have a lack of adaptation to vocal ranges, while simultaneously we have extreme extraversion while being coupled with the inability really to sit still, or when trying to reorient oneself towards a stationary mode, one was not able to sit still or be quiet for less than 5 minutes at a time. We have the property within that. So what we have channeling is we're trying to channel a writing domain. Now, within writing domains, as far as the written kind, that's not working out very well, and we're not accumulating the results that we want. So what we've been trying to do is we've been trying to establish a mode of journalism through routes such as what I'm doing right now, which is an audio journalism route. Now, this seems to spring forth from me in social groups at different times, and it captures different results. Excuse me, I'm foaming at the mouth. Shut the fuck up. Now, today we have obviously me, but we're going to invite a couple other, not personas necessarily, but archetypal. We're going to invite a couple other voices onto the mic check. We're going to do the scientists, the data-seeking, literal, left-brained, how do you say, it is this voice. It's very Russian, yeah? It's not bad. Also, we are going to... Now, I think that... Now, this is a little bit too much of a... How do you say... I just want to experiment with different voices, though, and see what it looks like once you... Because we have one of these little applications... We got an application... that'll change the tone of the voice. So it's like with different dialects, the different tonal situations come to the forefront. And then next thing you know, we have different various options within options within options. Now, there does seem to need to be more. I like this building a lot. It seems to have a depth of privacy while simultaneously, it's just very nice. So this would be a very good place to do a little bit of audio, but I think that there needs to be an outline first. Needs to be an outline sort of bullet markers. I'm not going to really get stuck on it or think too much, but this definitely seems to be the property in which I can most excel because, I'm just like Machine Gun Kelly right now. But I can run my mouth, get a little bit of journalism done today, and shit will be popping. And I think that she knows. Well, sometimes I go out now by myself. There's a lady who's sure that all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven. When she gets there, she knows if the stores are all closed, and with a word she can get what she came for. And she's buying a stairway to heaven. There's a sign on the wall, but she wants to be sure, 'cause you know sometimes words have two meanings. In a tree by the brook, there's a songbird who sings. Sometimes all of our thoughts are misgiven. And it makes me wonder. And it makes me wonder. But there's a feeling I get when I look to the west, and my spirit is crying for leaving. In my thoughts I have seen rings of smoke through the trees, and the voices of those who stand looking. Oh, oh, oh. And it makes me wonder. And it makes me wonder. And it's whispered that soon, if we all call the tune, then the piper will lead us to reason, and a new day will dawn for those who stand long, and the forest will echo with laughter. If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alone now. It's just a sprinkling from the May Queen. Yes, there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on. And it makes me wonder. Your head is humming and it won't go, in case you don't know. The piper's calling you to join him. Dear lady, can you hear the wind blow? And did you know your stairway lies on the whispering wind? And it makes me wonder. There's a winding down the road. It's thin, it's taller than my soul. In walks the lady we all know. Then everything it turns to gold. And if you listen very cool, and all I wanted was his He's buying a stairway to heaven. I was sitting on the couch that was red in form that I'd gotten off of a particular friend of mine previously in my apartment. It was 2020 in the month of April, and my uncle, Jeffrey, was sitting adjacent from me across the room. Suddenly the phone rang, and with it there was a message delivered to me that would affect my life for, well, let's not go that far with it. Ooh, now there's moments within audio journalism that I have to worry about cutting certain things out. Or there has to be some kind of methodology to. All right, now we're just going to do impunctuation sets. We're going to start over as well. But yeah, from now on I'm going to do okay. I wanted to build something before I went away. I wanted to create memories as well as something tangible. My friend Alex Marshall had gotten out of jail and started hanging out with me again. We both lived in our grandparents' basements and wanted more out of life. Alex had been my friend for years, and his company soon trumped all other people and things in my life. I became obsessed with the idea of loyalty and being understood, and my friendship with Alex seemed to highlight these areas in a nutshell. The perfect opportunity for a beautiful disaster came when I received a $5,000 loan for classes. With the knowledge that this money was coming in the mail, I created the idea that Alex and I would move into my mother's house, wait for the loan to come in the mail, and then both get jobs and get a place together with the money. I'd use the money to get on my feet, and then when I had to go away, Alex would take things until I got out. It seemed so simple. The problem was I became many things. Before the money came, I got wrapped up in a bunch of unsavory social circles with people who didn't have my back. Knowing I had money on the way, they stood by preying on my weakness. And because of my depression, gluttony, and desire to escape, my drug abuse escalated to a ridiculous standard where I was injecting large amounts of meth periodically. This act sent me surging into an unknown space in my mind, one that some would argue was psychotic breakdown. At points, I'd have Chapter 1, The Beer Mansion, 2009 to 2010, age 18 through 19. My senior year at Broadway was fairly uneventful. As you know, going from academics in Miss Bryant's class to what could only be described as elementary studies in my new school left me unmotivated and with a great deal of free time. To make things worse, although I considered it to be better at the time, my attendance record from TA never seemed to transfer to my new school. Cumulatively, I'd say I missed between 70 to 80... Cumulatively, I'd say that I missed between 70 to 80 days of school of my senior year, though that is just what was on record. What cannot be recorded is the amount of classes I skipped, most of my electives and mentorship classes. The only elective courses left to take that would fit my schedule was either advanced PE or nutrition, and reluctantly, though I still don't know what I was thinking, I decided to take advanced PE. After a few classes of complete embarrassment, I decided it to be mandatory I skip that class, after attendance, of course. As I said before, my new social circle demanded me to transmit a much different persona than what I had been at TA. I lack a lot of the qualities that were considered cool on the surface. And in parentheses, I put muscles, attitude, low IQ. So I had to make do with the attributes I could control. It became clear that I would achieve a level of coolness by means of acting out and being what I called hardcore. Of course, hardcore people didn't eat lunch. They smoked cigarettes in the parking lot. Hardcore people skipped school and got fucked up. Hardcore people took risks and plain out bucked authority. I don't know where I got my interpretation of being hardcore. Whenever faced with consequences, everyone always assumed I was hanging around the wrong crowd. In truth, I was the one calling people pussies when they wouldn't come with me. I was the manifestation of the bad influence, and in retrospect, it was always just to make up for my own overwhelming insecurities of not fitting in with my new masculine companions. It was during my senior year I met most of the people that would occupy the stories I will tell. Though to name each right now would only be boring and a list kind of formality, but couldn't begin to characterize each person enough to do them justice. I'm sure all important ones will be mentioned in time, and others will simply seep through the cracks of my memory like most high school relationships. All that is left to say about my senior year has already been expressed. I met people, I adapted mostly negatively, and I graduated. Not everyone in my story will be villainized. Certainly many will. You just seem to pick a lot of damaged souls when partying, drinking, drugging, and simply put, not... Ooh, is it going to be giving a fuck? Giving a fuck. I think it would be good to start things off on a positive note, however. That positive note is ironically called the Beer Mansion. It was the summer out of high school. Everyone had graduated surprisingly enough, and it was time to celebrate. When a person thinks of the word party, I'm sure there are many interpretations. To party, simply put, in terms of those I would have deemed to be hardcore, was to get as fucked up as possible, listen to loud music, to fuck someone inevitably at some point of the night, if possible, and then to pass out or black out. Theirs was always liquor, beer, and marijuana, but sometimes there would be meth, or acid, or mushrooms, even DMT, more of that later, haha, and an array of pills of multiple varieties. It was a happy time. None of us had really ever experienced any sort of problems, and rehab for me seemed like 20 years in the past. It takes a few elements to create a party. First off, you need people, which we almost always had too much of, being just out of high school. Next, drugs and booze were essential. This also never seemed to be much of a problem. There's always tiny details, transportation, women, beds to pass out in, plans that are subjective each time, but the last essential element to a party is the location. Without a proper location, none of the magic I've listed here is possible. The location is probably the most important element to party development. We were all, for the most part, underage drinkers at the time, so somewhere discreet was advantageous. There was the parental factor, accessibility to everyone distance-wise, among many other things. In those days, we wanted to party every day. You'd wake up, crack open a beer, and smile. Most of the time, the party only ended when the party's location became deemed unusable. Backpedaling to what I was saying earlier, I'd start this tale on a positive note. His name is, drumroll please, Arian Joseph Grieco Ashton. It practically rolls off the tongue. To us, though, we simply called him Joe. To this day, I have the utmost respect for Joe. He is one of the only people who would go on to further his education, and to this day is still attending college in Norfolk. Actually, I think he has his own tattoo. He's a tattoo artist, which is really cool. He was a good drawer. Anyways, I'm not sure what it was that first led me to Joe. I met him through the grapevine, so to speak, but after our first meeting, I know I wanted Joe in my life. Part of it was that I was seeking an intellectual companion in the partying world of dumbasses I had found myself in. Of course, what probably was the immediate draw was, in my opinion, that Joe was one of the most beautiful, yes, beautiful guys I had ever met in my life. As his name might suggest, Joe's roots were Italian. He was small in stature, maybe a little over 100 pounds and 5'8", with brown eyes and a not too dark, not too pale sort of complexion. He dressed in that sort of alternative look, not overly gothic, but one whose clothes fit snug on them. I think the word is trying to depict, without any negative connotations, is skater. Ha ha. He was a jovial, small, smart, and gorgeous skater boy, and I was fascinated with him. Joe's defining feature was his hair. Two things I'm usually not a fan of, red hair and dreadlocks. What did Joe have, you might ask? You guessed it, red hair and dreadlocks. But they were so clean and they suited him so well. I remember admittedly on a few occasions leaning forward with my Italian friend, was unaware, and smelling his hair. This is creepy. It always had an aroma of pleasantness. His dreads were probably the only dreads I'd ever on a person, wait a second, liked on a person. And it made him stand out. His boyish smile would light up a room. Perfect teeth, six-pack abs, but still he looked fragile and eternally youthful. I'm sure he's on my friends list on Facebook if you're interested. Look, it's like, what are these people with pictures? Everybody wants a picture. By the way, I'm describing him. You might think this is going to end up another story like that of my friend Alex or Michael McCoy or Logan Airy or... Obsession has no bounds when it comes to my past. I did love Joe, do still, I suppose. But I think you'll be happy to know that my story does not go down that particular route. I wish I could say I never manifested an obsession with Joe because I had learned from my past that such behavior was not productive for anybody, let alone myself. No, I think in the case of Joe, he was too perfect to entertain such nefarious thoughts. I held him so high in my mind, such devious thoughts would be like lusting after an angel. Ha ha. I'm sure he would be surprised to hear me say so. I put on a good poker face when it came to my interactions with Joe, and we grew in our friendship. Put simply, though, I always thought Joe to be out of my league. Joe's family wasn't loaded rich, but they certainly were wealthy. In the summer before leaving for college, the summer after our senior year, they allowed him to move into a piece of property they had vacant. It gets better, though. This was not just a house. This was, for lack of a better word, a mansion. Now, how's Joe's parents just had a spare mansion on the outskirts of Broadway? I don't know. It seems like one of those goofy things that happen in a sort of fictional novel. Good job, Joe. Here's a vacant summer mansion. But I assure you that's exactly how it went. We all counted the rooms many times, and there was a bunch. 2 stories, multiple bedrooms, a balcony on the second floor that peered over a driveway, much similar to where a king would sit at a coliseum while gazing down on gladiators in a sort of arena. None of the bedrooms or other rooms had any furniture in them. I guess that was the catch. Joe slept in an empty room on a piece of foam. Everybody else just passed out on the hardwood floor wherever they ended up. But I'm once again getting ahead of myself. The one piece of furniture that was in the house was an out-of-tune piano in the main living room. I had learned the song Fleur de Lis by Beethoven in rehab. I'm sure you remember. I would play my little rendition of that song over and over, and drunk people would all cheer. They'd all say, "You're so talented," and I'd quickly leave the area before they learned I was a one-trick pony horse. A one-trick pony horse. If that's the expression for only knowing one song, haha. The house was older in style. We used to try and describe it with words. We weren't too sure what they exactly meant. Victorian? The white trim was peeling from the wood in its exterior. It wasn't exactly a mansion per se, but it was huge. And it was Joe's. And if you haven't already connected the dots, it solved the location problem in terms of the never-ending party we wanted to create. Joe was generous, kind, fun, and to be around. I don't know how many nights and how many parties we threw in that house of his. A lot, that's for sure. His house was eventually nicknamed the Beer Mansion, and the name caught on fast. It was probably the best summer of my life. There was no worries, unbreakable friendships, so we thought. It was like we were our own little society, and we made our own rules. Ignorance is bliss. One thing that's funny about parties is that written word can't capture the variety of emotions felt while experiencing them. The more you party, the more unclear the last party becomes. There's specific parties I could probably and surely will cover in detail, but for the most part, it's not necessarily the events that make a party, it's a feeling. Maybe that feeling is just the reaction of all the drugs and alcohol we were doing. I don't think that was all it was. There was a genuine love in that mansion, and at the center of our little mob, we developed rabble, I would have said, and did often. Hold on. But that's not where I'm going with this. There is another very important character I want to take the time to define before moving on from the beer mansion. Her name is Shane Nicely. Shane is short for Shayna, but I forget how long it took me to figure that out. Joe introduced me and everyone else to Shane one day. We were all at the beer mansion. At the time, she was around 18, I was around 18, give or take. Shane was 23. But it gets better. This was around the time I was working at Spencer's in the mall. Joe, shortly after me getting hired, had applied and gotten a job down at the other end of the mall, in the small shoe store called Journeys. Here, where it all becomes relevant, Shane was Joe's boss who had hired him. I have to admit, when she came in the room, I was intimidated by what I saw. Not only was she older and Joe's boss, Shane was a woman who had a strong personality. She was a woman who knew who she was, what she liked, and how she liked it. It just so happened that she had also fallen for the allure of Arian Joseph Greco Ashton. But unlike me, she wasn't afraid to reach out and grab what she wanted. If she was aware that what she was doing was in retrospect socially unacceptable on many different levels, she didn't care. She was sleeping with her employee, who was 5 years from being her age and partying with his youngster friends, all just out of high school. If she was aware of all this, she couldn't care less, or cared less. She broke out a bag of weed, and when we were done getting high, Joe took her in the bedroom and fucked her brains out on that little piece of foam. And that's how it happened many more times until eventually the summer ended and we were forced to begin a new chapter of our lives. There would be many more. Yeah. Boom. 27 things I love about John Rawls for his 27th birthday. Your confidence, the way you walk, talk, and hold your ground, your head high. How hilarious you are, you can be just about on any subject. How you're able to stay focused on what's important and don't let what others think bother you. Your smile and the way you look when you're trying to see something far away, and your smushed face when you wake up. The way you stand up for what you believe in, taking risks without letting fear put you down. Your mind, which you display in all aspects of your life, whether it's a joke, a conversation on a book, or the words you use on a request form. Your consideration of others, like how you watch the TV on subtitles for hours in the morning, or clean the pod without being asked to. How you motivate and inspire me to want to take care of my body and stay in shape like you do, your tenacity. How you make me feel safe when I'm around you, your fight for what's right spirit. The way you can control the energy in the room or command attention. The focus and voices you make when telling a story or doing an impression, and how excited you get every time. Your accent is true, you have one. Your non-lazy approach to life, and how the idea of work excites you and fills you with pride, and how you want to help people. How you keep a brave face on even when you're down. How you somehow don't realize how amazing and handsome you are, and how you make my heart skip a beat every time I see you, even though it's been over 2 months since we've been in a cage together. The way you pretend to be surprised in a playful way and turn your head slightly, but with a rapid swiftness as you do. It's intense. I'm glad that I have this. The way you puff up every time a female guard comes around. How you get cocky or playful or angry while playing poker every time, every time, and buck on Comer. The eccentric personality and how you go about everything at 110%. How easily approachable you are and how you can make friends with just about anyone. How you never wear a shirt, laugh out loud. How a future with your friendship makes everything much brighter. How you pretend to shoot an imaginary shotgun, use the phrase rock star, and used to be called Pookie. How excited you get when UFC comes on. That was for the 27 things I love about John Rawls on his 27th birthday. I would never do
Those
that.
are good though.
I know that's so dorky. I can't believe I gave that to him. I'm so glad I did.
If somebody gave me that, I would love it.
Ross, what do I think? No, this is. It's not that one. All right. Here we go. Damn, this phone. It's literally wrestling me. All right. This was The Life of John Rawls. Abusive upbringing, disdains mother, idolizes father, scoliosis, mortality scare, unstable marital climate until late teens, grows into body and takes control through track, fitness, physical prosperity, divorce occurs, dreams of joining military, meets Haley, falls in love, eventually moves in, ends high school, rejected by recruiters for tattoo, refuses cover up, forced to abandon dream, long-term relationship fails, left brokenhearted, feeling of betrayal by father, prior role model, and complete isolation from family. Legal trouble escalates, unfairly persecuted and presented by judicial system. Drug addiction expands at some point, betrayed by friend, forced to suffer for nearly 2 years alone in Middle River. Damn it, this thing. Betrayed by friend, set up again, abandoned by best friend, roommate, loss of freedom, job, house, loss of hope. This is where you are now, at a highly pivotal point in your life. Regardless of what happens in court, you will get out of here at some point, and you will have decisions to make that will define the rest of your life. Your life has been hard and unfair. I can see that. You have unresolved rage that marinates within you, threatening. Threatening to lash out in multiple shapes and forms at multiple targets. You are uncertain about your future, your dreams, your direction. You hide behind a smile and a laugh, saying things like, it did again, hold on. Okay, saying things like how you don't care what happens to you and that you're a lifer, but there's a spark of hope inside of you. I've seen it. Your life is not over or ruined, Ross. God, this thing is like flipping upside down and doing all kinds of stuff. It's ridiculous. All right. If your life is not, it is just beginning. All of the losses and defeats you have experienced, draw strength from them. They don't define you. They only make you stronger, give you more depth of character. I want you to know that I am and will always be here for you. I can help you with motivation, finances, support. You can get back your job or find a new one that you love just as much. And we can work towards getting our own place. You will get new friends that won't turn on you. You will fall in love and be in love and loved in return, and get a dog named Dabo or Jacko. You can be a part of my family as my best friend, a family you choose, not one you're born into. And in time, you will find that you that you have dreams again, and that they have all come true. It's crazy. Hold on. I'm here anyways. I can help you out. I'm good on the computer. Oh wait a second. This is the same one. Yes, I'm good on the computer. The financial and companionship advantages. I'll be able to provide research and outreach services for you. This means if you need a simple background check. Now, no, wait a second. No, this has got to be a different one. I hesitate to ask. The next you look for me, I'll be free. Yeah, this is a different letter. Hold on. I don't have the other one. And they've all come true again. Where's the one I was looking for, though? That was a really good one, too. It's very sad. It's helping me kind of. Yeah, I need to never forget. I'm glad I read this. I'm so glad that I wrote this. Remember, I was just saying today, I felt like it's just memory's weird. Time does weird things. I guess. I don't know. Here we go. It is. At least I think it's coming up. No. Okay, here's the rest of it. I know it's hard to trust people, and it's hard to trust yourself sometimes. But you can succeed and move out from all this towards a happy life. I believe in you and know you can do it. And don't give up hope, Ross. Stay motivated and stay sober just long enough to get off probation. And there is no end to the things you can accomplish. And regardless of whether or not you succeed or not, know that you have someone that will always be in your corner again. I love you, bro. With all my heart, T-Bone. This is a highly personal and random, but I think we're at a level with each other that I can be free just about anything. Oh, that was the beginning part of the letter before I wrote him a whole diagram of his whole fucking life. I know it's crazy. Hold on. What else do I got here? And there's my grandma's. It's ridiculous. Hold on. Oh. No, I think that's it on here. Huh. Yeah, that makes me sad. Dear John Ross, I'm a free man. Got your letters, and I'm glad you made it to CCAP without having to wait too long. I've got good news and bad news. Bad news first, I lost my job. I was going to my mom's before work on Mondays. I had 3 hours, and I thought I'd have just one drink. Well, I'm glad I made this mistake before I got out and could have gotten in trouble with probation. Long story short, I blacked out, got breathalyzed, lost my job, got kicked off work release, and sent to segregation for my last 8 days, where I ran into John Holmes, by the way. He was refusing to eat, trying to get moved back to Rockingham. They gave him 5 years, and now are giving him 5 more for new charges. Crazy. So I've decided to stay clear of alcohol too. I'll get a new job, so things could be worse. I just can't afford to get in any trouble again, and booze opens that door for me. The good news is I planned ahead. I have my phone hooked up with money on it so you can call. My phone number is, I also have $100 to put back for when you get transferred to CCAP. Overall, I got a new job, and I will get a new job and get back on track. It shouldn't take me too long. I'm applying to 7-Eleven Bridgewater tomorrow. Haha. Keep your head up, Ross, and call me when you get this. Love you, man, and always remember you're a rock star. Another one. Here we go. Dear John Ross, I wanted to write you this letter as a surprise to let you know how much your friendship means to me, how much you mean to me. Writing has always been the best way I know how to express myself. The words flow from my soul onto the paper in a melody that is not planned so much as it is reflex. It's like a dance of the mind. Some believe life to have no meaning, while others believe it is all preordained. We are living out a giant play that has already been writ. If we live but one life and our choices carve our destinies, then perhaps you are all... God, this phone is driving me crazy. Then, perhaps... If we have but one life and our choices carve our destinies, then perhaps we are all a slave to fate. Fast forward time, and there is but one path that will be known as my life, and one path that will be known as yours. We are all slaves to something in this world. Perhaps this is our nature. You, for instance, have a warrior spirit. You are a slave to your inherent ability and need to fight against the forces in reality that do not fit your worldview. This takes shape in many ways. You fight for justice against those who abuse women, children, and cowards who hurt, snitch on others to save themselves. You fight for honor against those who would disrespect you and your culture, and at times you fight against yourself because you are human, have made mistakes, and do not know how to process these mistakes. The spirit of the warrior is one of fire. It is a powerful force that breaks things down so they can be rebuilt anew. Without it, there would be no change in the world. The only problem with this is that in all this fighting and judgment, all of this fire and internal battle, there is no peace because the world is not fair. People will always be dark. Justice will never truly be served. And one day, we will all be gone. That being said, in all this fighting, where will John Ross find his peace of mind? And if the battle is within himself, how can he ever hope to win? What drew me to you was your powerful energy. Sure, there was other factors, but ultimately, I sensed the will of fire that is your soul, and I sensed a terrible sadness behind your jokes and words. I saw a man who was respected, who I wanted to be more like, and in his eyes I saw an emptiness that had come to stay. In the past year, I have done my best to extract your true essence. I have learnt your past, your present, your dreams. This can do it 1,000 times, I don't care. Your thoughts and your feelings. There is a lot of layers to a person, especially complicated people such as yourself. You are very in tune with your mind and your body, but there are emotional blocks that you must overcome. If you do not forgive yourself of the past, you will never truly love yourself, John. And to forgive yourself, you must forgive others. People are weak products of their environment and make mistakes. You and I are no different. You can get into a million fights and never feel any better. I understand there is a place for violence in the world, but I also see its toll. John, I can tell you from the bottom of my soul that you are an amazing human being who deserves love, happiness, forgiveness, and all the beautiful things this world has to offer you. But until you believe it, it will remain untrue. Sex, drugs, anger, and distractions, these become a part of us because we lose ourselves. They will never make us whole. They will deceive us and leave our remains withered and scarred. But there is hope. My soul is much like yours and much different as well. I know. This is... that's not the end of the letter. I don't know what you believe exactly. No, that's not it. Oh. I have the other part. I guess that's all I got.